Hello and welcome to what I think is episode 8 of Quicksave Radio. I'll explain all very quickly in a minute, but as always, I'm your host Josh Boyles, and I'm joined as usual by Owen Connolly. How are you doing at the minute, my dude?
Doing good. Feels great to be back. I feel like we say that. I feel like we say that too much, as if we like
Yeah,
every time we record, we've been away.
yeah, it's true. I don't even want to say that we've been busy at the minute, but well, okay. So this is technically still episode 8 of Quicksave Radio, even though it's kind of 9. So we recorded an episode about 2 and a bit weeks ago now. That it was right before I went on holiday for 2 weeks, and I was meant to edit it and upload it, and I never got the chance because I was very busy. We're also changing up the so this episode is going to be basically mostly what we record today on what is July 22nd, and then we're going to take a couple snippets of the last one that we recorded, which is basically just our discussion about Zelda Breath of the Wild and maybe a few other bits, and sort of try and work that into one not big podcast because there's not very much to talk about this week, so it should be
Yeah,
about usual length, but
we're
just
just go. We're going to incorporate the stuff that was essentially non-time specific into this episode.
yeah, exactly. So if you hear, you should be able to hear because I'm actually back at home and not in Manchester now. Owen's got a brand new headset, so you should be able to hear the difference in audio signature between like when we recorded this. But I'll try and maybe slip in a few edited bits after at points where I sort of intercut between the two audio recordings. So it shouldn't be a problem. And then, as I was going to say, we're trying to change up our recording and publishing schedule. So previously we would record on a Friday and then upload on a Sunday morning. Because in my mind, that was like what I tend to do with podcasts. Is I like to like do other things while I listen to them, and Sunday morning is like the perfect opportunity to do that when I'm just chilling. So I thought maybe other people, might fit that schedule as well. So that's why I was trying to get it published on a Sunday. That doesn't quite fit into our lifestyles, I guess, because not well. I mean, when you get to Friday evening, the last not that it's not the last thing you want to do, but sitting down to record 2 and a bit hours of games discussion is it's not really at the top of your priority list when you've had a full week of busyness. So we're trying to. I think what we're trying to do is now publish on a Thursday, and we were supposed to be recording on a Tuesday, but I don't think that's going to work for me now because we both do a pub quiz on that evening. So we're trying to figure out when all that works, and we're sort of still in the process of that. So
And
bear with.
not to offend any potential listeners, but the pub quiz is significantly more important than you are. So, uh,
Yeah, it is true.
what?
Not wrong. Big if
Uh,
correct.
yeah. So I think we'll be recording on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays or Mondays, we'll sort that out
Yeah.
off thing. It'll be or just whenever suits us. No, we need to be quite strict because we've sort of skived out in a few of these over the last. I mean we're on episode what 8 or 9 now, and it's July, and we started this in January.
I
So
mean,
what?
if we ever get to the point where we don't know the episode we were recording, I think we need to get back on track.
Yeah, exactly. Which is now. Um, so yeah, right. Let's jump straight into the news. Okay, so Owen, as I said, I've been away for 2 weeks, so Owen has been in charge of news collation this week. So if you
Yes.
want to direct any complaints, direct them to at Zanzibar Crumpet on Twitter because he's the one who's in charge this week, and he's also going to lead. He
I'll
doesn't
go,
know it, but he does now.
I'll bring it on. I need a hobby.
No, no, don't do it. You argue with far too many people on Twitter already. You don't need other people coming into the mix.
I need more.
Don't feed his ego. Right, go on. Nintendo Switch Lite.
Okay, so as we predicted, I think on probably
Yeah, if
multiple
any,
previous podcasts,
I want to
we
say this, yeah, because if anyone has like listened to all of these podcasts, because Christ knows I can't remember what I've said on these podcasts. I swear to God, at least on one of these podcasts, I said specifically that a Nintendo Switch Lite, if it were to be announced, it would be $200 and wouldn't have removable Joy Cons, and this is exactly what this is.
yeah,
I,
I
I
think
feel
we
very
even talked.
vindicated with that.
I think even before then we talked about just like a new Switch model. I think
Mm.
when we first started talking about this, we thought it was going to be a Switch Pro,
That was the rumor. Yeah.
which interestingly enough isn't. I don't know why we thought that because that's never been Nintendo's angle when they have had handheld consoles in the past. They never seem to upgrade; they sort of side grade
Yeah.
their consoles.
If you look at like the DS and the DSi, I mean the DSi was an upgrade, I guess, but like because they had
Yeah.
the DS and then they had the DS Lite that came straight after, and I saw a cool graph that shows like the difference in like purchases. Like so, when the DS was released, that took up the vast majority of releases, and then when the DS Lite released, that actually took up far more sales than the normal DS did, like year on year. So when they released, like even though it's technically lower powered, it actually sort of overtakes the other one just because of the market that it's going for, which we'll talk a little bit about. Because
I
I
bought the
think
DS Lite.
they've yeah. I came to the DS game late. I came in with the DSi. I got a DSi and then I got a DSi XL further on.
So I mean, if we're going to talk about this, let's go through straight through the specs, as it were. A new portable. This is a portable only version of the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo has been quoted as calling it a compact, lightweight console that is dedicated to handheld play. So this is essentially the new DS. Um, I think
Yeah.
from now on, the 3DS is sort of moot, although there are still first-party games from publishers such as Sega and studios like Atlas are publishing exclusively on 3DS, which is still quite strange to me. But I think that this is now the move to say that the Switch is their handheld console as well as their current home console. Uh,
Yeah, I mean that does sort of surprise me a little bit because I mean I don't own a Nintendo 3DS, but I do know that although it's not like necessarily mainstream, the Nintendo 3DS does still have a fairly decent player base of like dedicated players, and of course there's still games releasing for it. So it seems weird to me that they try and compete with themselves in that regard.
I
But I
think
guess we'll see moving forward
I think I
how
think the
they sort of treat
problem
that.
I think the problem they were experiencing is just a huge hardware bottleneck, which the Nintendo 3DS had. I think the reason it's still got a large player base is there are particular games, particular franchises that have been locked to the 3DS, and players of those franchises have had nowhere else to actually experience the games. Like
Mm.
Fire Emblem, I am desperate to play Persona Q2, but I can't because it's on 3DS only, and I have no idea why. I genuinely don't know why. Especially considering Persona 5 was exclusive to Sony and Persona Q2 is exclusive to Nintendo. That's very odd. Um,
Yeah, it does seem a bit strange.
so hopefully this means that the 3DS life cycle is going away, so we don't, uh, Switch owners don't miss out on any more 3DS games. So in terms of what's different about this console, uh, the pros are it's slimmer, so it's got a smaller form factor, which I hope will like eliminate some of the problems that you and me have both experienced with the Switch, which is cramp hands.
Yeah, I get my. I don't know. I've started sort of getting around this recently because I realized that I think I'm actually holding the Switch wrong. So, I have quite big hands, and when I try and play with the Switch in handheld, I quite often, same with my phone, like I support the bottom of it with my two pinky fingers, which you don't. I've realized recently you don't need to do if you just grip it and then like stick your pinky fingers on the back, which I'm not sure if anyone else. Well, most people probably do this already, but yeah, I've managed to eliminate that because I was getting immense cramp in my hand because it's quite heavy. It's heavier than you like think, especially for like long play sessions. I mean, I know the battery life only lasts for about 3 hours on like something like Zelda, but yeah, I was getting serious cramp hands. So if this is slimmer, I think the screen size is very slightly
It
small. I
is
think it's
it
like
it is smaller,
six point
yes. It's
six
smaller, but
inches, something like
it's
that.
it's smaller, but I think that's to accommodate the actual form factor. So I think when you look at it, it's going to be pretty imperceptible, the screen size difference. And
Yeah,
if it's
probably.
running at the same resolution, which it is,
It's still 720p. Technically,
it's
it's
it,
better with
te- yeah,
a smaller.
yeah, technically it's
Yeah,
better.
say smaller screen size, but the same resolution. It's got a higher pixels per inch. So
Which actually is interesting because I was going to mention before that 3DS games were outputting at uh, well, I know Persona Q2 outputs at 360p.
yeah, but it's fine because it's on a 2 inch screen, so
Yeah, the
no
problem
one really
is
cares.
the problem is the person I've been watching stream it has to blow it up for their stream
Yeah,
size. So
yeah,
it's just a pixely blocky mess. It's yeah. Um, so I think the main things that I'm concerned about, or well, Sorry, I'll keep going on the pros. It's lighter, which should again improve the cramp problem. Better battery life to keep it in line with the 3DS, because 3DS and the DS in general actually had very good battery. I remember even back in the day when
Mm,
battery life was not as you know extended as it is now. I remember a DS would last for a very long time,
mm.
and it's $200, uh, which is cheap as hell. To be honest, I think a $200 console, and that's going to be what 170, 180 here.
I think it's 100 and it might be 200 or I think
Oh, do you think
180. I don't
it could be the
it'll probably be
Nintendo
the luck.
tax meme? Yeah.
Yeah, the Nintendo. Yeah, because I think games on the Nintendo store are still like $60, but they're still like 60 quid on the Nintendo store.
Ugh.
I don't think they've announced the UK price yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I mean, even so, an Xbox One S after being around for like 2-3 years now is only just about 200 quid. So I mean, same price for like a fully fledged Nintendo console is pretty huge. I
Yeah.
think the main sort of, especially when you consider the target audience of this, because I think I said when we talked about this was that this would be perfect for families. I mean, families don't necessarily want to spend if they're going to buy a console especially for a child. They're not going to want to spend any more than 200 quid max. And I mean, getting down to 200 quid is
Exactly. Yeah.
rivaling some of the kid friendly like Amazon tablets that you can see. Um,
Yeah,
of
because
course, and
there is a
obviously,
gigantic market for that now. How, as much as I might not agree with it, um, there are a lot of sort of, well, get the kid just shove the kid in front of a tablet and then I can go back to watching Holby City. Like
yeah,
there's
that's
a
sort
lot
of
of
thing.
that going on. But if they are trying to get into that market of giving, like kid friendly tablets that are of a certain price and marketed that way, I'd much rather kids were playing, Zelda and like really cool Nintendo games than going on YouTube and watching whatever the fuck uh
YouTube throws in front of them because the
yeah, YouTube
algorithm
throws in
is
front
at
of
their
them.
mercy.
Yeah, so that
Especially
sounds great.
especially because I've got two little cousins who are 9 and 7, and they
Weird names.
have Amazon. They have, you know what I mean. I'm not giving
I
out their names this podcast. No, I don't know who's listening.
know it's just a
Um,
stupid joke I do every time someone says that. I can't stop
God's
myself.
sake. Anyway, yeah, they've got like Amazon Fire tablets, and every time that I see them, they're always playing Roblox, and it's one of the it's that's the one thing that I'm 20 years old, and it's the one thing that makes me feel ancient because they come up to me and try and show and like consider myself to be very well versed in things that go on in the games industry, and they show me this, and I'm like, I haven't got a fucking clue what this is. This is some weird ass other world that you're showing me on this tablet right now.
Well, the
Whereas if
thing
they if
the
they
thing
could
with
have just a normal video game, just go play Mario on your new Nintendo Switch, please. I
from
don't
what I
see. I
understand
can't
about
gatekeep.
Roblox is that it's a very sort of wide open game which has a lot of different things you can do. It's very open source. So I've heard it explained to me as something that has a lot of coding involved in it, but I've never seen that aspect of it. I've only seen these sort of specific modes that people make that are from different games. Like
Mm.
it's a very peculiar game. I agree, and that's something I definitely don't understand. Um,
Yeah, but I mean this new like Switch like again going back to like the targeted towards kids. Well, you're going to get onto the cons in a minute that it doesn't have detachable Joy Cons, which I think is especially great for kids because it's just one thing less one to lose and one less thing to break in it. Because those Joy Cons, if you especially if you try and put them on the wrong way, they're quite easily broken.
and I think this is a good
um,
time to mention a sort of a very micro story that maybe this will fix the problem with Joy-Con drift.
Potentially, I mean, we don't know yet if I mean, it's probably the same internals. The sticks don't seem any
Yeah, but I
bigger.
I think the problem with the drift is a wireless problem. I mean, the Switch has had wireless problems since day one.
Yeah, the right Joy-Con specifically, isn't it? Because
Yes.
yeah, I think it is the right because I've noticed it. Well, I'm talking a little bit later about Mario Maker 2 that I've been playing this week, and I've been infuriated by me walking up to the edge of a cliff, trying to pressing B to jump, and then just nothing happening, and me walking. I'm like, what the fuck? I definitely pressed B. What's going on? So there's definitely some connection issues there, which if the controllers are attached to the console itself, shouldn't be a problem. Hopefully, we'll see. Who knows? This is Nintendo.
This is Nintendo. I mean, it's going to be part of the console itself. I don't see how that could be a problem. If that was a problem, that is a very major design fault, and that would, I think, actually result in a recall. Um,
Probably, yeah.
I think
Well, we'll see.
there is very like important things to mention about this as well. Is that there is no TV compatibility, so you can't blow
This
this up to a TV. But you actually can. You
I was going to
can.
say this weirded me out because aren't there like third-party docks that
Yes, this is
don't
how
like?
a lot of Pokemon streamers stream Pokemon games. There are emulators. Well, not I'm sorry, not emulators. There are I forget their names. You used to see them all the time in like game and just like certain like gaming related shops back when the Let's Play Rise was happening. It's like get your own like thing that allowed you to record Xbox 360
Capture
footage.
cards.
Capture cards, that's it. Yeah, they use 3DS capture cards um, to blow things up onto the stream. So it doesn't have native TV compatibility, but if you do want to kind of blow these up onto a big screen, they will still be outputting at 720 or 1080p. Sorry, no, just 720p.
Yeah,
Just
just
seven,
720.
just 720p. But if
But
you
there's
want,
no native like TV compatibility
yes,
from Nintendo.
but if you wanted to do that, you could. That would only really apply to streamers, I think. I don't think anyone would. I don't know of anyone who was playing on their 3DS and decided to put it on a big screen. I mean, the only reason I've ever done that
Yeah.
is when I was going to say use emulators. Of course, I don't do that. Uh, yeah.
It's
So,
fine to admit you use emulators. I mean, I know that they're technically illegal, but I don't think it's cracked down upon that much.
yeah. I mean, I don't. I use emulators for games that I physically cannot play anymore.
Yeah, also exactly like emulators are ridiculously important in terms of games preservation. I think we've talked about that a little bit before.
It's what I used to
That
play, like very important games that I considered stupid that I hadn't played. I felt
mm,
it important to download an emulator for. I played Pokemon Black and White was the first Pokemon game I played, and I played that on an emulator. I played Earthbound on an emulator.
you can
Uh,
download emulators on Android phones now and just download the
yeah.
ROMs and just play it on your phone. I played. I remember I had a friend in high school who used to just. What was the first Pokemon? Was it Red and Blue?
Oh yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah, Tom. Do you remember when Tom Kennedy used to play Pokemon
Marcus
Red and
Graham
Blue
used to play
all
it
the
as well.
time?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's mental.
So
Um,
there's no
this doesn't have well, yeah,
there's no
you've got no
kickstand.
kickstand, but that's not a con because have you tried using the kickstand on the normal Switch? It's absolute dog
Well,
shite.
every single person who's ever bought a Nintendo Switch, the first day they think they break it twice.
When they think that is that hang on, can I guess these?
Guess
It's when
guess
they
two.
it's when guess it. It's when they flick out the stand on the back because it's meant to flick out because it's designed for kids or whatever. And when they stick the what do you call it, on the Joy Cons? Is that the when they put
Uh,
the wrong
this
handle on?
the wrong handle on the wrong thing, and then you get people who are like, "Oh, just press this button and it slides off." I'm like, "No, it fucking doesn't.
Did you do
It's
that?
yeah, it was
Oh
it's
my god!
it was welded on." But I don't think that is at all like. I mean, of course, it's my fault for putting it on the wrong one, right? But I don't think it's my fault that it's that ludicrously bad. Like
Easy, yeah.
that it's that
Um,
badly designed that if you put it on the wrong one, it might be a bit more difficult to get off. It is welded on. It's so hard to get off, and you think you're gonna break it. Like especially if it's for
yeah.
kids as well. Kids are gonna put it on the wrong one.
Now you mention it, because I would like prided myself in like not doing that because I think I'd seen a streamer do it already, and I was like, well, I know not to make that mistake. And then I think the first time my brother picked up the Joy-Con, he did exactly the same thing, and I was like, for fuck's sake! Like,
The entire achievement hunter office did it. If you go back and watch their initial unboxing of the Nintendo Switch, Jeremy does it in 5 seconds flat.
it's probably because like the when the like yeah like sticking
Because
a hand yeah
I thought they were the same.
yeah I mean
I didn't see why they were left or right specific.
yeah it's straight because the only other time that I've ever had to like a handle thing on a Nintendo thing would be the Wii remote, but they were universal. They weren't like left or right
Exactly, yeah.
handed. Yeah.
So there's no kickstand, which is fine because why the hell wouldn't why would you have a handheld console that you would rest on a surface?
Yeah, unless you, yeah, that'd be actually.
Un
Now you mention, yeah, because the Joy Cons don't come off, so it's fine.
yeah, and like the only reason I ever do that is if I had my like forearms on the table as well, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
HD Rumble's gone. I don't think anyone's going to be missing that. HD Rumble is
probably
kind of
not.
HD Rumble is kind of cool. I do quite like it, but I mean HD Rumble is the same as the 3D effect on the 3DS. Like every dev abandoned it after a year because they couldn't put it in the trailer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of a game recently that's. I think the only thing that properly used it was 1-2 Switch, which no one cares about. Which actually you can't even play 1-2 Switch on this because you can't take the Joy Cons off.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe this is what this is. Maybe this is just a permanent gun wound. This permanent like gun to the head of 1-2 Switch. It's one to it.
I mean, is it no? Because that's using that analogy. Like you're putting the gun to the head of an old, like someone who's old and decrepit and on the verge of death anyway.
Yeah,
I mean,
there was
1-2 Switch
they were
was never
sent out.
alive.
Yeah, they were sent out like that.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, HD
I think
Rumble's gone.
sorry, did Mario Odyssey use it a little bit?
Yes,
I can't remember. It's been a while, but it wasn't.
It used it only in the sense that it gave you like vibration, but like it was cool. Like the vibration was really good in the game, and I do like vibration when you're playing on console. I
Can I
did.
just say that
It is
Forza
something.
Horizon 4 is made by the Rumble triggers?
Yeah,
Because the Rumble, I don't, you won't have used them because you haven't got an Xbox One controller, but because I have had an Xbox One controller for years, but never, because even if you played like normal games, they wouldn't take advantage of the Rumble triggers because it was like special, it was like in the software. So the first time I experienced it was when I loaded up Forza Horizon 4 for the first time on PC, and I was like, what the hell is my controller doing? It's making this like, and then I realized it was the Rumble triggers, and it genuinely makes the experience.
and it's not just a gimmick. It does give you an extra level of feedback that you just haven't
Uh,
really experienced yet. It's something I do really miss in playing PC, and I think that a vibrating Xbox controller is where a lot of the like inherent fun from a lot of games came from. It just
mm.
like in a shoot, like it's why I didn't really want to transition to PC when PC gaming was on the rise, because when I saw shooters being played, the main thing that was pitched to me was, you have far more accuracy and much more like wilder field of movement, and there's a much higher skill ceiling. And I thought that's all well and good, but holding a game controller and using the triggers as if I was actually using a gun trigger and getting that feedback on each gunshot felt really good, as opposed to just clicking. And I still believe that. I still think a shooter is more fun on console, but I would never choose to play a shooter on console, which is a very strange thing to say. Like, I find it more fun, yet I'd never do it because if I want to
I
get
think
better at a shooter, I'd play it on PC.
well, I think about trying to play a shooter with a console now after being on mouse and keyboard for 8 years and just cry at the thought of it.
Now,
Um,
you should try Doom Eternal on controller because
I think I might have to when I play it this weekend.
Doom 2016 on controller is a shit ton of fun because
Eh,
it's fun because of how the weapon wheel works, how it like slows down time.
yeah,
You're
that's
sort of
true.
able to kind of move and sway a bit more. I do actually prefer playing shooters on console.
I might
But
give I'm supposed to be playing through the first Modern Warfare soon, and I'm trying to find a copy of it on the cheap on PC, the remastered version that is. But I already have a copy of it on the PlayStation because I got it on PlayStation Plus. And if I can't find a cheap version on PC, then I might be forced to do it on PS4. So maybe that'll be my taste of console shooters for a bit.
yeah,
We'll see.
so I mean that's the talk about vibration. Uh,
Yeah, which
I didn't think I'd be talking about that. It This is something I didn't actually think about when I was like reading the specs of this. But it supports all current Nintendo Switch games unless they don't have handheld functionality. I have never played a Switch game that doesn't have handheld functionality, so I didn't know this was necessary.
I'm trying to think of one because as far as I'm concerned, most Nintendo games are better handheld, apart from a select few.
It must be third. It
Uh,
must be third party ones.
yeah, I think Mario Odyssey is best on a TV with removed Joy Cons. Zelda is
I played it
best.
completely handheld.
Yeah. Well, did you? So did you just press? Shit. Is it Y to throw the hat?
Yes. No. Um. I don't remember the controls.
Did you just well, whatever? Were you just pressing a button to throw the hat?
Uh. Yeah, you could press a button to throw the hat, or I would just like, or I'd take the Joy Cons off and just rest it on my bed.
Ah, right, okay. Well, I mean, in that's a very specific scenario, but I think fairly universally the best way to play Mario Odyssey would be on a TV with the Joy Cons removed, so you have the extra maneuverability of the hat with
Yeah,
the motion controls.
I guess it's less about
Zelda,
it's less about preference and more about the functionality being there, in the
just the
first
yeah, like
place.
the ideal situation. I think Zelda's best played on a TV with a Pro controller. Um,
Agreed.
Apart from that, I can't. Yeah, I can't think. I can think of games that are best played handheld, but I can't think of games that are
Yeah,
best played
the only games I
like on
can
a
think
TV.
of, like the only games I can think of, have a handheld mode, but in handheld mode they just don't really work very well. I think the best example we both know of is Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah, yeah. Darkest Dungeon's crap on Switch. Don't even bother.
On Switch on TV it works. Same as how
I'm not.
on
I haven't played it on
no, because
PC because I'm not
it
quite sure
works
how
on
the controller
PS4.
works.
It
Oh,
works
okay.
it works on PS4 quite well. It's still quite clunky though, especially when you get later in the game and you're like the thing about that game later on is that it becomes like so much admin. You're spending more time in the town like um in between missions than in missions themselves, and navigating all of that stuff with a controller is tedious as fuck.
Yeah, I
Like
can imagine.
I really hope that the sequel improves that or does a completely different console port that like really ties it up. But yeah, so the problem uh I don't know what game that could be, but if you know of any games that didn't have handheld functionality, you will still be able to play them. However, you will need wireless controllers.
Yeah,
Like,
so you can still connect like separate Joy Cons and like a Pro controller or the Pokemon Go controller thing
yeah,
to it. It's just that you won't be able to plug it into like a separate screen, so you can like blow things up, obviously. But so we've
yeah.
talked about that.
So
Um,
that's everything for the Nintendo Switch Lite. And honestly, I already have one, so I don't think I'd buy another one. But I think of the audiences we previously talked about, and for new Switch, for people who are looking to adopt the Switch after the fact, I would actually recommend this over the original. I never hook my Switch up to the TV. There's no games that are on it, or I think will ever be on it, that I would really want to experience on a big screen rather than handheld, because I can have it handheld and then use whatever screen is around me for doing something else. Um,
I think
so
while I can agree with your points, I think you're definitely of a certain play style. Like you're very like into the hand. Like you can find a reason to use handheld over the TV mode more often than not. Whereas I have quite a different lifestyle in that I go to and from uni quite a lot, where I have a TV at uni and I have a TV at home. I'm on trains quite a lot. So while I do get a good use out of the portable nature, I do also really, really appreciate just being able to plug it into a TV when I get home or plug it back like because the Switch dock is tiny and you can take it anywhere you want. Basically, it's really
yeah,
portable and like I really do enjoy hooking it up to a TV. And also I've started using YouTube on it quite a lot recently because it's really great. Like it's like oh I want to watch this. If you don't have a Chromecast or anything and you just want to stick it on a TV, you just plug it into the Switch dock and get it up on there.
have they
So
updated the YouTube app since I used it? Because when I used it, it was awful.
it's the same as the TV one, so because I use that, my TV at uni is a smart TV, so I don't really have a problem. Although technically, when I'm at home at uni, I've got an Android phone, and I literally just hit one button to beam it to my telly. But when I'm at home, because all my shit at home's ancient, I do find it much more useful to. Yeah, I
So,
don't have an issue with the YouTube app because it's
the
the same
first
one that
time
I
I
use on the
used it,
TV.
the first time I used it was one of those. Have you ever used one of those websites on like a console or a tablet that looks just like a desktop site but slightly redesigned for touch?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think they might have
That's what it
updated
looked
it since
like.
you
Yeah,
last.
it has updated definitely because I haven't used it since then. But the first time they ported YouTube to the Xbox 360,
Hmm.
that's what it looked like. It was very
Oh
much
right, yeah.
you had to like navigate it with the sort of mouse that it was like a mouse that you controlled with the controller, and then you had to type stuff in.
All right, right, right.
And then it moved to a really nice version. So
If you've ever used the like smart TV app, it's just the same as that. So it works pretty
okay,
well actually now.
okay, that's much better then.
So yeah, I think like if you can see yourself getting by without plugging it into a TV, which I guarantee that a lot of people probably will do, then yeah, absolutely go for this Nintendo
Yep.
Switch Lite. If you do like necessitate using the TV, which for me personally I do appreciate, I'd still go for the normal version, which is 250 quid. It got a price reduction a few months ago. And if you buy it after I think August or September, they've actually like stealth refreshed the Switch, so it now has a much better battery life. You can get apparently they can you can get between I think it's 4.5 and 7 and a bit hours out of this new refresh Switch with the new battery, which it is like 33% increase, but I mean it's the same
Could
price.
I
So
could I trade my Switch for a Switch?
if you'd really want to, you'd probably lose quite a bit of money on it. But
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I mean for the battery life, it sounds pretty good.
yeah, I mean, it's up to you. Like, I don't
I,
know. I
I
probably wouldn't. I never, to be fair, I never find myself running out of charge on the Switch. I'm yet to be stranded without a
yeah,
battery life on my Switch.
I've never found myself stranded. It's usually like I'm in a position like the only inconvenience with it is I'll be somewhere where I'm comfortable playing and then it'll say low battery and I have to move somewhere else. But I'm always able to move somewhere where I can get charge. I've never
Yeah,
been in a
exactly.
position where I'm not.
Yeah.
I think how I'd sort of sum it up is I think you're right in that there are people who will definitely like the TV aspect. I think it's sort of more difficult for us to imagine going to a handheld only now that we've experienced the detachable Joy-Cons and the Pro
Mm,
controller and stuff. If you'd never used a Switch before and you adopted the handheld version and your only previous knowledge of handheld consoles, Nintendo or otherwise, would be the 3DS, normal DS, or the PS Vita, that's not something you're even going to think about. So I think if you went straight to the Switch Lite, you wouldn't really feel like you were missing anything. But if there are two separate audiences, then that's perfect because it shows that they're actually catering to two separate audiences rather than saying, here's the new Nintendo Switch. It's better than the other one. Please buy this one." Because I mean that's a very Nintendoism, isn't it? That's Nintendo selling you something as many times as they can, whereas I feel like this is a side grade rather than like just selling it again.
yeah, exactly. I fully agree with all that. And I mean, this is perfect because the more people that play Nintendo games, the more people I have to tell that Breath of the Wild isn't perfect and they should stop holding it above all other games. Anyway, moving on to the next story. Do you want to take this one? It's Call of Duty.
Bit of code, lads. Bit of code. Go get a bit of code. So yes, it's actually interesting because a bit of that culture actually applies to this game, to this
That is
story
true.
rather. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which is actually Call of Duty
Wait,
Modern
whoa, whoa,
Warfare
whoa, whoa, whoa,
4.
whoa, 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 whoa,
Sorry,
whoa.
sorry. We have to talk about exactly what the title of this game is because
Can we
Activision.
just call it? Are we going to start referring to this as Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, like we do Doom 2016 or Tomb Raider 2013?
Well,
I'm
what annoys
sick of
me,
putting
what
years on
annoys
this. Star Wars
what
Battlefront 2015.
What annoys me is that when I talk about Doom 2016, I call it Doom 2016, and I hate myself every time I have to do it. Why can't they just give it a subtitle? I love when I'll be able to talk about Doom Eternal, and I can say, "Have you played Doom Eternal?" rather than say, "Have you played Doom?" You know.
Yeah,
So, what are we going to call this? It's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4.
COD
And
5.
I think that's the best thing. I think Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 is the best thing to call it.
Oh, I don't know because then it could, but yeah, but there was Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Yeah. Because then people will just think that you said that wrong.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way that you can. The only I feel like the only rational way of calling this like something distinctive is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, which is a mouthful. or just Modern
Yeah,
Warfare 2019. We'll just call it
yeah.
that from now on.
Modern Warfare 2019 is pretty good. What they
Yeah,
should
that's
have
not bad.
called it, what they should have called it, the same with Doom 2016, is it should have been called Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and then give it a subtitle.
Yeah,
It's like we don't call Black Ops 4 Call of Duty Black Ops 4, do we? We call it Black Ops 4
or Blops 4
or Blops 4.
if you're being
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I think it should have been called like imagine this on the box, right? It should have been Call of Duty in tiny letters, just to like say that's what the franchise is. Modern Warfare, and then give it a subtitle that was like I don't know what 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 would a COD dev call a Call of Duty, like fucking Retribution apps? Just put shun on the end of something. And that
Revolution.
Revolution,
Actually, no, I
Absolution.
think Revolution was the name of the Black Ops 2 DLC pack, if
I
I
know.
remember rightly.
No. I'm just naming all the zombies and multiplayer DLC packs right now.
Yeah,
Absolution, Revolution, uh,
Revelations.
Revelations. Yeah, it's all that shit. So that's what I think it should have been called. But I think for uh, sanity's sake, let's just call it Modern Warfare 2019. So now that
Yeah,
we've worked out what the fuck we call it, let's actually talk
yeah.
about the
That
news
that,
story.
that whole 5 minute segment of how to
Yeah,
pronounce Modern Warfare.
so Modern Warfare 2019 has a new mode. This is the first gameplay that has been shown to the public. There has been story missions shown to the press that I'll talk about a little bit, just because we'll be on the subject later on.
Mm.
But this is the first multiplayer gameplay we've been shown, and this is called Gunfight. I don't know why it's called Gunfight, because as far as I'm concerned,
Because
all
you're fighting
Call
with guns, innit?
as far as I'm concerned, most of Call of Duty is fighting with guns, but
Yeah,
this is
got a point.
Gunfight. So it was sort of an impromptu, weird multiplayer. Like they do a multiplayer reveal live stream every year, but this wasn't that. This was them doing a stream where they revealed their multiplayer, but it wasn't the multiplayer reveal live stream for Call of
Yeah,
Duty Modern Warfare 4. That isn't Call of Duty 4. Are you keeping up yet? So
I fell asleep at the start of this segment. I'm not going to lie on.
I'll start talking about the mode anyway because the mode is cool. So Gunfight is essentially what I've wanted back in COD for a while, and this is even me. This is someone who liked Advanced Warfare. I liked Ghosts. I liked um, I liked
So, in
Black
other
Ops 4 a
news,
lot.
next podcast you'll be hearing from a new co-host after Owen's been bludgeoned to
What
death for
what
his
is it wrong
horrendous
to like?
views.
Is it wrong to like Advanced Warfare?
Yes,
Why?
I'm joking. I'm joking. You can.
I thought it was fun at the time. Like it was COD. Like it it wasn't the COD that I knew, but I guess because it was so fresh, it was at the time where even though CODs were coming out, I couldn't really see the woods for the trees, and I would buy them, and it
I know
didn't
what you
really
mean.
matter because I still
I don't
had
know why I'm
fun with
slating
them.
you. I don't know why I'm slating you because I've bought them all anyway. So I'm just as
Yeah,
bad.
and you bought Battlefield 5, and you bought Battlefield 1, and you bought Battlefield Hardline.
Oi, Battlefield Hardline was quality. You shut
I
the
know
fuck
it's
up, right?
I know it's quality, but do you know what else was quality? Fucking I was gonna say Ghosts, but not really. I
No,
was gonna
no.
Nah,
You
it
can't
wasn't the
push the joke
best.
too far.
Yeah, it wasn't the best of games.
Not great, not
But
terrible.
not great, not terrible. But yeah, so I've liked every COD. Um, and I think we both love Black Ops 4, the multiplayer. It's
I
still
did when it came out. They've ruined it with microtransaction bullshittery, but whatever.
yes, but the sort of
The
it's
gameplay
sort
is
of
fine.
yeah, it's devolved into what every COD does after like 9 months or so after release, where the initial kind of player base balance goes away and all that's left is the 10th prestige sweat.
Hmm.
So it's kind of difficult to play anymore. But even I like that game. But something that I think a lot of shooter fans have been wanting for a while is a return to loadout based combat. Loadout based. I don't want to say boots on the ground because that's their buzzword. Because
Hmm.
I personally don't care about boots on the ground. If a game has grappling hooks and allows me to jetpack all over the place or even fucking fly, that's great. I don't have any problem with that. But the fact that they're returning to pure gunplay is the most excited I've been for a shooter in a while.
Agreed. I'm sick of all this hero like ability, like asymmetric multiplayer bollocks. It needs to not die, but it's been like the primary form of multiplayer for so long now that I think the last like purely loadout based multiplayer game we've had for a while was, well, I guess Battlefield is, but they've still got classes, and well,
Don't they have
classes don't count.
don't they have different armor values though?
Yeah, so it is still a little bit. Honestly I couldn't tell you. I don't even know what the direction of Battlefield 5 is at this
Because I
point.
remember I remember when they unveiled Battlefield 5, they showed the different classes you could play and they had different
Yeah,
speeds and
it's
different like health values. I mean, Siege is very much Siege
they
is
also
sort of
said that you would be able to drag downed enemies by their hands to a special place where you could revive them, and now they're questioning whether that's even possible in the Frostbite engine. So who fucking knows, Owen? Who knows? No one does.
it's
Not
not
even.
about Battlefield 5. But
Sorry,
you were saying yesterday, weren't you, that if Bad Company 3 was announced, you wouldn't give a shit at this point.
I'd give a shit, but I would still be the most skeptical that I'd ever been about Battlefield because of like Dice could sing so many songs about what they plan on doing, but whether they actually have the nous to execute it is debatable.
You'd be like Squidward watching it out your little cubbyhole window with binoculars. You'd just be
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
right, let's see. Let's just
Let's
see.
see.
Yeah. So, so it is returning to loadout based gameplay. So I think the thing we hated most about Black Ops 4 was that, right, here comes a what's the dude with the grav slam? What was he called?
Uh, no idea. I
I don't
can't
remember
remember at
anyone.
this
I
point.
don't remember anyone's names, to be
I don't
fair.
remember this. I remember. Oh shit! No, I don't. He was the guy I played all the time. He was bald and had a Cockney accent. Oh no, was he
Uh,
Ajax? He had a.
Ajax.
Was it
That's
South African?
we've remembered one. Yeah, it was he was South African, and then there was uh, well, it shows you how good their
Prophet was the
characterization
black Cockney guy with dreads. That's about
was.
it.
It Sledge? No, because Sledge is Siege.
That's Siege.
Anyway, it was the guy who jumped in the air and then slammed the ground in that big AOE, and it was like an insta kill.
Mm.
Like I don't know at what point during the like development of Call of Duty multiplayer someone thought our run and gun gameplay, what it really needs is for someone to come around a corner, miss their first few shots, know they're going to die, and get a free kill button. Here's a free kill button or a free multi kill button that they've earned specifically over time and not via a kill streak.
Yeah.
If someone gets a kill button via a kill streak, that's fine. They earned that. It was the fact that someone was like, "Yeah, you can like see through walls now. You've got this ridiculous shield with a machine gun on it that you just can't be shot through, and you just get
Mm.
it via pure attrition." Like, I don't know what they were really thinking with it. It was, I think, it was during the sort of hero shooter thing, and it was just starting to fizzle out.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Definitely has at this point.
yeah, but that is now completely gone. This mode, although they haven't revealed all the multiplayer yet, this mode revealed a lot about just the game itself. So abilities are gone, bless up, just bless up. And Gunfight is a 2v2 competitive mode. Uh, we don't really see many 2v2 only games. It's usually like it's either 1v1 or 5v5. And in the case of stuff like Rocket League, it's 3v3, and some fighting games as well. So this is a 2v2 mode where there'll be a variety of objectives. Sometimes it's sort of a search and destroy type, sometimes it's capture an area, sometimes it's kill within the allotted time. And from I, you've seen this gameplay, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've seen a bit.
Yeah. From what I can tell from this gameplay, the engine, it's so obvious to see that the engine's changed.
Oh,
For the
absolutely.
better. For the
Not
better. It
even.
looks
I mean,
completely different.
it's not just like the graphics. because I mean, Black Ops 4 looked like credible, even though it's still on the same like Quake engine from 1999.
Yeah, I'm not even
But
thinking
it's
about
in
the
terms
graphics.
of yeah, it's like the whole like the animations are vastly different. Like the gunplay seems huge. Like that you can even if you're wearing headphones and you watch the gameplay, then you can like all the audio engine is vastly improved. Um, yeah, it's quite incredible to see. I'm ridiculously like I was already excited for this, but I am very much more excited for this now. The only worry that I have, I mean, it does look like classic arcade gameplay, as you mentioned in the notes. But I mean, you were talking a little bit about like the worry is that while the story seems to go for a very grounded, like um, intelligent telling of like a political military story, to then have like an arcade gameplay would kind of undermine that statement a little bit.
I
I
think
don't. Re-
it would only undermine it if the devs didn't. I think that would only be undermined if the devs didn't acknowledge that it was there. Because
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with this mode existing in its current form, or just a modern warfare multiplayer shooter existing. Like, there's nothing wrong with Battlefield 3. There's nothing wrong with Battlefield 4 or any of the previous modern warfares, um, except for some things that they could have done better. But it was sort of a different time back then,
Mm.
and they weren't really making many political statements. I feel in those games, which back then was sort of okay. Like there wasn't much of a sort of need for them. There
It
wasn't
was a
as much of a
well. I mean,
push.
the whole political arena. Do you remember the old political arena back 10 years ago when no one really? I mean, people. It was
I
yeah, it was a
remember when
different time. Let's say that.
I remember when I could watch Knock the Week and they wouldn't talk about Brexit.
Yeah. Oh Christ, you remember that? I don't remember that at all. I remember when I used to be able to turn the news on and I didn't get depressed every night. I turned the news off tonight while watching tea because we got to the third headline and it was just another depressing thing. I was like, "Fuck me, I'm just turning this off. Let's stick. I don't know, flog it back on. I don't know.
Flog it.
I'd
This is
rather
what
watch
happened.
flog it than I don't know, some other paedophile ring's been unearthed. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember talking about it during one of the previous podcasts when we were talking about the uh, the unveiling of Modern Warfare. Was I think the thing that they can do right with this game is just establish some boundaries um in terms of story versus gameplay, or like, what is it, pseudo narrative dissonance?
Yeah, something like
What's the
that.
term? Yeah, it's like, I'll just call it narrative dissonance, where there were times in some of the earlier COD games where you were expected to be a lone soldier, like a part of a unit, but the amount of people you killed and how resilient you were very much undermined how much of a one how desperate the situation was.
Mm,
And they improved that in future games by being like, you're part of Task Force 141, like in Modern Warfare. Like,
mm,
you are the best of the best. You have the best equipment. You are the best soldier in the world. Like, not the best, but you're one of the best. Like,
mm,
they kind of started to play into this power fantasy a bit more, and it became less like, why can I, like, that was one of the main complaints from casual players, was like, why can my soldier take 10 bullets to the face and then just sit behind a tree and then suddenly grow it all back? They kind of got rid of that. So I think what they need to do with the story of this game, or the presentation of it, is say, we're going to show you this story and you're going to play it, and it's going to be a very grounded, sort of like semi-realistic story that's going to make a lot of statements. It's going to hit very hard, but we're also going to acknowledge that we have a multiplayer mode in it and a co-op mode that is there just for fun, and we acknowledge that. That is something I accept. If they're trying to lump in the multiplayer and the co-op, or whatever other modes they have, and try and keep it consistent in tone, that's going to be very tone deaf, and I'm really hoping that doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's my main worry with this game is that because like they seem to be going for such heavy hitting beats in its story, but I've got such a worry that every single one of them's going to land just so tone deaf, and it's not going to go well. Anyway, I mean, we haven't seen well, we've not seen anything of the story yet. This is only a snippet of the gameplay,
Well,
and I think
we've heard from press who've seen one or two story missions that they are going very much down the hard hitting route. Like
yeah,
it's gonna
so
be
we'll see how
not
that turns
not
out.
not like emotionally hard hitting, but you're gonna see something and think, well, fuck, that's something I don't normally see happen in a game in a good way.
Mm, yeah, I know what you mean.
It's like so
Um,
I was watching someone a while ago saying, "Have you noticed that you never see innocent in like lots of action films?" And I'm someone who hasn't seen John Wick, so I don't know if this is true. Do you not find it strange that in a lot of action films now that are even 15 and over, that way more innocent people don't die?
uh, trying to think. Well, John Wick's not the right action series to pick on that, just because of the whole myth, the mythos of, because the
Mythos, yeah,
mythos of the mythos of the like the John Wick universe is that it's kind of a well known um like it's like an open secret that half of the world are assassins. So you see
yeah,
people getting murdered in Grand Central Station, and everyone just carries on about their business just because that's normal. Like that, I love that about the John Wick universe, and John Wick's not a
yeah.
great
That
one to pick on. I
yeah,
mean,
that's
Marvel have kind of, I mean, they've picked on the, I mean, any sort of it's kind of the superhero trope at the minute. I mean, Batman versus Superman, the whole plot point was that trying to take control of, or limit the powers of superheroes because of the collateral damage, and same for the whole Sokovia Accords in the Marvel thing. But in yeah, I guess I kind of know what you mean. It's that not really touched on very much in video
but
games.
yeah, but you don't see innocent people like die. You only see the main characters or villains die in the same way. Like the snap happens in Marvel films, or the thing, or the Superman fight with Zod happens, and people, civilians die, but it's all off screen.
Yeah, that's true.
Like whereas back in the 90s, or like back with early action films, there was so much collateral damage that was shown, and it's kind of weird to go back and look at. Like when you actually see that happen, like when you see like a fight happening between two people and you can see the collateral damage, it kind of contextualizes the film a bit and makes you think, okay, this actually feels a lot more, maybe not realistic, but I don't know. There's just a certain like energy to it that kind of makes things feel a lot more important than they are. And I've heard that that's what happens in this game. It's very much kind of make sure you pick your shots carefully.
Mm,
Like pick your shots carefully and be careful because there are people around. You know.
yeah.
And I'm looking forward to the exploration of that because in the previous COD games, I mean, no Russian not included.
Mm,
Uh, if there were civilians in an area, the second the fighting began, all of them ran completely off screen, and if you tried to shoot them, like 11-year-old me did, uh, they didn't go down. Like you couldn't really kill them if you wanted to. So they were
yeah.
completely avoiding that. But now they're saying like, well, if you're a soldier and you have a gun and you're in a populated place and people are taking cover, that's gonna happen. I mean, GTA hasn't like shied away from it. Open world games haven't shied away from it. I don't see why Call of Duty, like a modern warfare game would. Um,
Mm.
I mean, we've got back onto the sort of debate about how they're going to deal with the narrative dissonance in the game and how they're going to portray a modern war. And I think we're talking about it so much because it is something that we're generally concerned about. I think when gaming is making such positive strides in directions, and Call of Duty being as big of a franchise as it is, I don't want this to be the game that comes out and is just undoes so much work. I mean, it wouldn't undo work, of course, but it would undo work in the eyes of certain people in the public eye. I don't want this to be the next two-page spread in the local newspaper that's saying how evil and horrible like games are. That's not
I
something I want to
guarantee
happen.
I guarantee that even though we don't want it to happen, like the sun will find a way.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about the sun though.
Yeah, who gives a fuck what the sun says? Anyway, yeah, I mean the full multiplayer reveal is on August 1st, I think.
Yes.
and I don't think they've actually. I don't think they set a date to talk about the single player, but I think it's when's this out? Like November, October? It's
November.
usually around that time. Is it November? Right. Okay.
It's usually like November 11th.
Have you had much experience with porn bots on Discord? Because I've just had my first one. I just got a message from
I, your
Evan.
first one ever.
Yeah, I just got a message from Envagelin W27. Hi boys, Halo emoji love heart. I'm now online. X, come and enjoy me. Fire emoji. Click link. I'm not clicking that link.
I'm sure that link will take you to the promised land.
What's it? I don't know. I'm not giving out the link on on the podcast. Yeah, that's my first Discord porn bot. That's strange.
I've never had one of those. I've had them all the time on
Instagram's the worst for
what
it.
did I got them a lot. Yeah, Instagram's bad, and I got them on Twitter a lot.
Yeah,
The Twitter ones have gone actually.
yeah. I haven't.
Well done, Twitter.
I had a spate of them a couple of weeks ago, and sorry, I've just completely turned the chat away from Call of Duty. Whatever. Right, Netflix has announced a Cuphead cartoon series. Apparently, this is according to
Yes,
you.
and I'm very very excited for it, as I would be. Um, so this is there's so much irony. Well, it's not irony. It's just odd. The fact that Cuphead is a game whose main draw is it's the most. Yeah, I good admit
Yeah.
its main draw is that it's stylized to look so much like a 1930s cartoon that the work involved that they showed in the dev videos genuinely just makes me very stressed. I just got like anxiety watching it because I was like, you're individually making each frame of this boss fight, and it makes me like, I don't know how you have the time or patience. Um, and they're basing it off a cartoon. So there were 1930s cartoons that the game is now based off, and now there's a cartoon based off that game, which is kind of odd. Um, so it one of the things that I loved about Cuphead was that it really doubled down on the fact that 1930s and 40s animation is fucking terrifying. And I don't know if that's intentional. I don't think that was intentional at the time. I think they were trying to make stuff that did genuinely look appealing to children. But what they actually did, because animation was relatively new and creating this level of children's character, like a more westernized, Americanized view of a children's character, was so new that I don't know what kids thought about them back in the day, but fuck me, they're scary. Especially if you go back and look at some of the old animations. You can do it on YouTube. There's a very disturbing nature to them. I mean, which is explored a bit more in that game. Have you heard of Bendy and the Ink Machine?
No.
But it's got a similar style to Cuphead, where it uses like monsters and imagery from
Yeah. Okay.
um, like early cartoons. Um, but it is going to retain that same art style as 1930s cartoons, but they've said, and you can see when you look at the poster for it, that it is being stylized slightly differently to be aesthetically pleasing rather than watching it and going, Jesus.
Yeah.
Like,
I get
you
what
know,
you mean.
yeah, it's going to be appealing. It's going to be a stylized cartoon rather than sticking specifically to the source material, which is what Cuphead did.
So the only thing that worries
Um,
me about this is I admittedly haven't played a lot of Cuphead. I just bought it on Switch recently, and it's a lot harder than I thought it was. But the story for Cuphead seems incredibly simple. Like, two cups made a deal with the devil, and then they have to go and redeem themselves by
yes,
defeating these bosses. Where do you go with how do you take that story and turn it into something a bit more fleshed out?
I think that can be said of basically any cartoon. If you look at pretty much any cartoon, you could boil it down to those bare minimum concepts and be like, where can you go with them? And then those cartoons could have 200 episodes of themselves. Like, cartoons can be flanderized so easily. Like, if you take any cartoon, which is like you could take the first episode of TMNT and be like, where can we go from here?
Yeah,
Like,
I guess.
I do, you bring it up, And it's actually interesting that you mentioned the story of Cuphead because I don't know if they're actually going to incorporate the whole deal with the devil thing, because the deal with the devil is
It's very
in the
contained, isn't it?
game. Well, I more mean like subject matter wise, because while I wouldn't have any problem them having him as a character in the game, because in 1930s and 40s animation he was in, but because I mean Christian values was still part of, they were much more relevant than they are now. So the devil was a bad guy, and he was in, and angels were in, like in very, cartoonized and child friendly forms. But now I don't think that would sort of work. I don't know if they're actually going to be like, yeah, this is like a kid friendly cartoon, and the main bad guy's the devil.
Mm.
Like, can you really imagine that happening? Because I can't. That would kind
Uh,
of
I don't know.
be tonally strange to me.
I mean, they did it in Cuphead, and that came out recently. And I mean,
Yes, but
if they can do it in a video game, why not? Why not an animated TV series? And I mean, it's on Netflix. It's not as if it's being broadcast out on
yeah,
live telly.
yeah, but the further Cuphead goes on, the more adult themes it has in it. Like not like adult themes, but there are like when you finally get to the casino, which is the end of Cuphead, the bosses that you fight, they're very much about like the imagery they use. They're like people are very drunk and it's full of gambling and like uh like like sexily dressed women and people are like smoking cigars and
I've just had
like
a
there's an
look
entire
though.
boss.
I guess even though it's stylized and that those themes are generally adult, I've just had a look at the Peggy rating, and it's rated as a 3 on the Peggy rating, and then everyone on the what is the other one?
I thought that can't be right.
No, the
I
ESR.
don't, I don't, I don't, I don't, I don't think that's right because when I played it, it was definitely a 12.
Well, I've played on the ESRB website. It is rated an E plus, which is 10, and then on the Peggy rating, it's a 3.
See, that surprises me a lot. Maybe I'm more uptight about this than I should be. But
Mm.
to me, it seems odd that in the current environment we're in,
Sorry, it's a
a game
7,
that
7 and up, 7 and up.
seven. Okay, seven. Seven's slightly more understandable, but I swear when I played it, and when it first came out, it was a 12. Because it does get to the point where it gets a bit like not like limbo or like inside levels of disturbing, but it gets to a sort of like uneasy, uneasy section intentionally.
That being said, I
Um,
think as adults going back and watching kids' cartoons, even the ones that we watched, are fucking terrifying. Like I went back and looked at, do you remember that there was a show on CBBS? It was like about a bedtime story or something, and there was a house with.
oh yeah,
It was I think I
yeah,
showed you Jenny.
CBBBs.
Yeah, like there was a house with a CG face, but if you go back and look at it now, it is genuinely nightmare inducing. So I think kids have like a maybe a different sort of they look at things and don't completely understand it. Then again, what is this Cuphead cartoon series aimed at? Is it a kids show or is it aimed at adults?
That's the thing I don't know, and that's my kind of point here is I don't know what they're really going to do with it because they could make a genuinely really cool like teenage slash adult cartoon that is got the sort of cutesy cartoon elements that you love and amazing animation, but is like purposefully disturbing and pretty scary to keep it in line with these 1930s cartoons.
Hmm.
That would be awesome, as much as just a general, everyone like a general family cartoon that they could put out. I think if the devs had pure creative control, um, they would want to do that. I think they would want to do a more edgy version. I think it all completely comes down to how much what the terms were when Netflix said, here's a lot of money.
Hmm.
I think that's what it comes down to. And I've just checked Steam and it says everyone 10 plus.
Oh yeah, that's the American one. Everyone 10 plus, but if you look on the Peggy one, which is the one for Europe,
It's Peggy 7.
it's Peggy 7.
That really surprises me. Usually, use of alcohol and tobacco knocks it up to a 12.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Is there a release date on it?
But yeah,
Because Netflix are a bit. Usually Netflix
yeah,
will
they
say,
haven't.
"By the
They
way, this is
haven't.
coming out in 2 days."
Yeah, they haven't given a release date. Hopefully, it's soon. I think this is something that they will have agreed on a while ago due to how much of a ridiculous success Cuphead was.
Hmm. I hope
As
it
for
does
its
well.
quality, I think it's going to be fantastic regardless because the guy who's directing it, which is Dave Wasson, is a Emmy Award winner who did the most recent Mickey Mouse series for Disney. And the thing that I loved about that was you can see exactly why they've chosen him, and I'll show you afterwards because this latest Mickey Mouse cartoon isn't just sort of a throwaway like let's do Mickey Mouse again. They've taken him back to very much the early days, and it has a sort of early animation looking feel, yet slightly different. It's early animation, but you can tell that it's stylized and it works in the modern day. So that's exactly why they've chosen him. They're like, right, we want you to recreate this,
Yeah.
and they've taken the themes from it and like made genuinely funny and like good gags out of it. Like there's a scene where um Mickey arrives, or so Minnie opens the door to Mickey, and she's like, "Mickey, you're half an hour early," and Mickey's like, "Yeah, I've totally not been standing here for 5 hours staring at you through the porthole."
What?
Yeah, it's full of like slightly creepy stuff, but nothing like completely
This
offensive.
is quite off-brand for Disney, if I'm honest. I like it though.
But that's what I'm. Yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like a lot more. I talked about this a while ago. Was that adult animation is becoming so well? It's not big, but I know it's gonna be big soon because I mean it's always been big in Japan,
I mean, yeah, anime.
and yeah, anime's always been huge in Japan. Anime is huge here, yet it's still pretty niche, you know. But it's for people. It has audiences of all ages, despite it being anime. Um, but now stuff like Agretsuko, which is on Netflix, is incredibly successful. Michael and Lindsay from Rooster Teeth were actually talking about it on a recent podcast, saying how much they loved it because it's got all the stuff you love about cartoons when you were a kid, but it's so relatable and it's just set in a very. It just feels like you're watching a drama, but with cartoon characters, and
Mm.
it works. So now that I actually air it out, I do want them to take a bit more of a mature angle with this because they could really make something that a lot of people haven't seen before animation wise. And the more adult animation gets made, and the more of it's good, and the more of it's consumed, the more of it gets made.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
I'm desperate for a feature. I just want a full big studio feature length animated film that is for adults. And I think that's going to happen at some point in the next 10 years, and it just needs someone to take the leap and do it. It's the same as
Spider-Verse.
Deadpool. Look, Spider-Verse was great. It wasn't adult.
Yeah, you've not seen it, mate. There's some gags in that that are pretty adult.
I know. I know there's adult, yeah, but there's adult gags and everything. I'm saying that there were animated feature-length superhero films before Spider-Verse, but there were no like 18 rated super gory superhero films before Deadpool.
Yeah, that's true. It's the same sort of thing,
as
isn't it?
opposed as opposed to like if you're not including stuff like Blade, I suppose.
Yeah. Speaking
But
of,
I think
new
that
new Blade just got announced the other day.
yeah, it did, didn't it? I'm really looking forward to that.
That's a whole
But
other podcast.
yeah, I think that's what I'm really looking forward to. I think I'm looking forward to this, and I hope it takes a mature angle. And mature animation needs its Deadpool. I
Yeah,
think that's what I'd say.
I think also video game. Well, not necessarily video games, like media outside of video games, because there has been good stuff in that area before. But I mean, speaking of Netflix and video games, the new trailer, like the full trailer for the Witcher series on Netflix, just came out the other day, which looks banging. Cannot wait to
Yeah,
see that.
it looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I
And
that,
you're a huge fan. You're massive fan of
Massive
the
fan of the
game.
games. I'm reading the books at the minute, and I love them. I've read some of the comics, and they're pretty damn good as well. And even you're always going to get those people that are like, "This looks nothing like the games." Like it's not based on the games. It's like the games are an
Yeah, but
adaptation of the books, and the books. This
that,
TV show is another adaptation of the books.
yeah, but that's the same twats who are like, yeah, yeah, I hate the Harry Potter films because they're nothing like the books. I'm like, fuck off. They're their
Yeah,
own thing.
exactly.
Can't things exist? Can things not exist in a vacuum?
Yeah. If like and also if you like the books more, that's fine. You're allowed to like things and they're not also, you know, you, they can be mutually exclusive if you want to like one and then
I
not the
mean,
other.
I mean, it's more stupid in the Witcher's case because I mean, at least with Harry Potter, it was understood. Like, at least it was like, for some reason, they haven't got this element of this person's character arc, or this scene was missing, and this scene was ultra important, or I think it would have been really cool to see this on the big screen, and it wasn't. That's a completely fair criticism. I don't think it's fair to say that it, it needed to be there
Well, that's also different
because
because
it
they're straight. Them films are straight adaptations of the books, whereas this is
precisely, yeah. When you saw people saying, like, when you see an idiot just saying Siri shouldn't look like that, I'm like, says fucking who?
yeah, exactly.
Literally who says that? No one.
In my head, that's not what the Nilfgaardian armor looks like. It's like, well,
I mean,
it's
admittedly the books did have some illustrations,
well, the comics did, yeah,
but that is so irrelevant. It doesn't matter because even if the illustrations that were attributed to those comics and books were canon, it wouldn't matter because you could just say this is a completely different series and has its own canon.
yeah, and it's
And I'm not even a big fan of the. I mean, there's a lot that I love about the Witcher game. There's a lot about it that I don't like. I think it was just one of those things. It's like you and Stranger Things. I just don't
yeah,
get it.
just don't get it.
I
I could
I
talk a
can't
long time
get
about
it.
why I don't like Stranger Things, but I'll save that for another podcast.
I could talk for a long time about why I don't like Witcher, but I don't want to make you upset.
Yeah, I'll get no.
Um,
It's all right. I'll sit here in reserved silence while you slag
no, you
off
can have me
things.
muted.
Yeah, that's true. And then I just wouldn't publish the podcast.
Yeah,
I'm not
but then
giving you a
I
platform for
wouldn't.
your horrendous
No one's allowed a
tendencies.
platform.
Nope.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't even like the game that much, and I thought the trailer for it looked brilliant.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm probably gonna like that more than I liked the game.
Yeah, I
Hopefully,
again
Cavill looks awesome.
yeah, as I said for the like I said, the more people that get into like the Witcher things, the more people I could discuss it with. So I'm all for it.
Yeah,
Like,
there's a lot of communities that are like that, and I think it's because the sort of big communities are like you join. I mean, it's like, oh, I'm a huge Marvel fan. Like, I can understand it from some aspects because I wouldn't call myself a huge Marvel fan. I love the films a lot, but I don't really care about Marvel outside of the films themselves.
hmm.
Like, I wouldn't go and read the comics. I don't really care about the characters that much. I wouldn't like buy posters with them like in or anything like that. I don't,
Sorry, it's just that I've got
that
two.
wasn't targeted at you, by the way.
If you
That was
look,
not targeted at
if
you.
you could see a camera view, I've got a massive Spider Verse poster and a massive Infinity Gauntlet comic run poster sat right behind me,
Yeah, but that's what I mean. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But
and
it's like,
a Spider Man PlayStation to my left.
yeah, I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there are part of that community would be like, if you called yourself a Marvel fan after maybe just seeing the most recent films, like if I'd called myself a huge Marvel fan and someone said how much of Marvel I'd consumed and told them to say, you're not a Marvel fan,
Yeah,
or you're just kind of pretending to be a Marvel fan. Whereas communities such as the Witcher community or the Warhammer community especially is really good for this. Is they're just like there was basically a new series of Warhammer books announced that were targeted towards young teenagers, which was like which was odd when I first thought about it because that's a very mature, gory universe. And the sort of knee-jerk reaction from people was like, "Oh, they're just trying to appeal to a mass market," and then you're like, "Well, of course they are. Of course they are." And if you think about it, that's more. Warhammer is pretty niche. That could be thousands more people being incorporated into your fan base.
Yeah, there's
Don't like. I don't understand this sort of. I mean, it all comes down to gatekeeping, doesn't it?
yeah. I mean, the Star Trek and the Star Wars fan bases are very much like that. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people in the Star Trek fan
Oh
base
yeah,
that
you
hate.
are not.
They
You are
hate the
not
brand new
allowed to like
films.
the. Yeah, you are not allowed to like the new Star Wars films if you're a Star Trek fan. You'll be out of any Trek convention otherwise.
Yeah, yeah, because they're
I
like,
really, I really want to go to a Star Trek convention. Cosplaying as the new Kirk.
yeah,
That would make my fucking day. That would be so funny.
yeah. Speaking of communities, a new Warframe expansion has just been.
That actually links in so well
I've been
because
honest. I've been watching the timer for the last 3 minutes, waiting to make that segue, mate. Honestly.
yeah, yeah, because that is something we're definitely going to be talking about here. This is going to be I'm just going to warn you now. This is going to be an extended Warframe section
Not too
because
extended because we're an hour and 20 minutes already.
yeah, not too extended, but it's going to be longer than the other news segments because we have an actual Warframe news segment, but then we've both been playing Warframe as part of Download Discourse, which we'll jump into straight afterwards.
Yeah,
Well, technically they're going to be together, aren't
yeah, pretty much.
yeah. Um,
So what's the newsy bit?
so yeah, so newsy bit is the new full-on expansion for Warframe is coming out. The previous Warframe expansions have been the Second Dream and the War Within, uh, and I guess the Plains of Eidolon and the Orb Valis were expansions, but they were like sort of mini expansions. They were the like open world areas of the game. So this is the next full-on like major expansion that's going to bring loads of unanswered story questions, loads of new gameplay revisions. I guess I'll just go down the list because fuck me,
Yeah,
there's a lot
just
going to be going
try
on.
and keep it like fairly simplistic, as if you're describing
Yeah,
this to someone who's never played
I,
Warframe before.
I
Because
I plan to. I plan to because when I wrote this, I didn't know you were going to be replaying it. So I was going to explain it in a way that would keep you understanding what I was talking about.
yeah, we just need to do that for the audience as well. Because even though I've put 10 hours of into Warframe over the last 3 or 4 days, I still don't understand half the shit written on here. So
That's the equivalent. Well, I mean, 10 hours is the equivalent of 5 minutes
yeah, exactly.
or less. So if you've never heard of Warframe, which I mean,
It
I
was
would say,
understandable.
have you? Yeah, it's weird because normally you'd say, have you been living under a rock? But in this sense, I'd say you probably haven't because Warframe is one of those sleeper games that is incredibly popular, yet many people haven't heard of. If you've heard of Warframe and you've tried it, you're probably sort of already in. You're probably in the ecosystem,
Mm.
and it's like a sort of black hole. It's one of those rare communities that's sort of a black hole. Like it's it exists, it draws someone in, and then they dedicate so much time to it and have to get over the teething problems that they can't really recommend it to other people. That's what I said to you, isn't it? Like, I don't know if I can recommend this game to you, even though I fucking love it.
Well, I said that because I played this for the first time a year ago, about a year ago to the day actually, and I put an hour into it and then stopped playing. I was like, I really like the game. I can see myself putting a lot of time into it, and that's why I can't play it because I have commitments. And
Yeah,
while I would love to put 100, 300 hours into this game for my own benefit, I'm gonna leave it for a bit.
which is completely fair. I mean, I only started replaying it recently, like about 3 weeks ago, and when I was just getting back into it again, there was stuff about the game that I was remembering and blocks in the road that I was hitting that I didn't quite know how to get past, and I was thinking, maybe this is too much for me. And on one of those days, I thought, right, I'm just not going to play Warframe again. And then I thought, right, I'll give it one more try. And then I was in again. Like, I was
Mm.
completely in. Like, I've been playing this game every single day for multiple hours because that's just the kind of game that it is. Um, so, I mean, if you've never heard of it, it's basically a space ninja MMO whose which like its main artistic design is based on science fantasy, which is one of my favorite aspects of all fiction because it's so because it's so unexplored. I think the most common science fantasy thing that most people will have heard of is the Knights of the Old Republic, or just the Old Republic in general of Star Wars, is a bit more science fantasy. It's less steel and tech and more um, forces that we don't quite understand, gods that maybe from or probably just technology or like AI, but it's basically every all the technology is so indistinguishable from magic that it essentially is magic,
Hmm.
and it's like that's basically what it has going for it. So it's basically it's not an MMO in a traditional sense. It's
It's free
sort
to
of
play.
level. It's free to play, which to be fair, there are a lot of free to play MMOs. But although it does have some open world sections, the entire world isn't open world. It's segmented into various levels that take place on various planets, and you kind of go through each of these levels, and some are procedurally generated, some aren't. It's quite difficult to explain unless you've played it. I think the best way to sum it up would be imagine Diablo's dungeon-based procedural gameplay um, that was sort of randomized and thrown at the Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah.
That's what I would that's what I would describe it as. But it's getting its next expansion, and it is called Empyrean. I think that's how you say that. Empyrean? Is it
Yeah.
Empyrean or Empyrean?
And
Empyrean?
yeah, same thing.
Empyrean, yeah. So it's gonna bring a lot of changes to the game. They are doing a completely revamped engine. I don't know if it's a new engine. That would be insane. It's probably just going to be an update to the current engine. This game's existed since 2013, and especially in some of the earlier levels and earlier areas of the game, you can sort of see that age. It's not bad looking by any means,
I
but
mean, it
I do
runs
think
really
it did.
well.
It runs extremely well,
I'm playing it
but
on a
it has
laptop at the
needed.
minute, and I'm getting like 200 FPS plus all the time.
Yeah, yeah, so it has needed a bit of a graphical upgrade, if not just to make fashion frame idiots like me happy.
Yeah.
Um, it's going to introduce a better new player experience, which is probably the most important thing on this list.
What does that mean?
Uh,
Sorry, but a better new play. I would hope that most updates improve my player experience. It's a very buzzwordy term, that.
better new player experience.
Oh, new player. Okay, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so it's basically when this game starts out, it'll give you tutorials and it will kind of explain this is how all the elements of your ship work, this is how your Warframe works, this is how you do these missions. It'll explain every single aspect of the game, and you're kind of stood there in your orbiter going, okay, now what?
Yeah, I mean that is.
And
I have to say that that's the most difficult part of Warframe is learning what everything does because I played the first couple missions by myself and then I got to a point where I was like I'm not going to play Warframe until I have an opportunity to sit in a Discord call with Owen and I can shout questions at him because I've got no idea how half this shit works. So
yeah,
the fact
because
that it's got a better like an improved like tutorial, well not tutorial but it's sort of that like they
well,
need to
they just
improve the
want to make
introduction.
yeah. WoW did this a while ago. Like it's just doing it so that it introduces new stuff to players slowly and in a way that isn't going to punish them for doing something wrong.
Mm.
Like when I started playing, I saw the platinum as just another currency in the game. I knew you could buy some, but I didn't know it was like a fully premium currency. So when I saw that I built a new Warframe and I saw it was going to take 3 days to complete in my foundry, I thought, well, I can rush that for 50 platinum. And then I lost 50 platinum, and it turns out what you're supposed to do is use that platinum to buy new slots for weapons and warframes and just new slots so you never have to sell anything. So you have like a much larger inventory.
Mm.
Now I have 0 platinum, and the only way I can get more platinum is by selling stuff on Warframe.market,
Ah,
which does work really well, but most people were saying that's how you're supposed to do that. And I'm like, yeah, well, I didn't know that, did I? I felt it like you feel sort of tricked into it's got that sort of early free to play stuff going on
mm.
in the early when you first start playing out that it feels like you're being tricked into doing things that weren't actually very efficient for you to do. Like when I like when I started playing, I thought, God, the credit, like grinding for credits is going to be absolutely ridiculous. I'm only getting like 2,000 per mission. The grind for this is ridiculous. Or getting this certain resource takes 50 years, or this takes forever. I'm like, yeah, this is just like a super grindy, insane game. I'm not going to play this. And then the more you play it, you realize, oh, I meant to complete the star map, and then once I've completed the star map, I can get this resource in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's full of stuff like that. Like, it's not just full of stuff that doesn't make sense for a new player, it's full of stuff that doesn't make sense to the extent that they're going to hate the game because of it. And
Mm.
that is really bad. Like, the amount of people who've started playing, like, there's a, a documentary that I 100% recommend that you watch by No Clip, which is a two-part documentary on Warframe, sorry. And one of the bits that really struck me in it was when Warframe was doing well in around 2015, a friend of one of the devs approached him and said that I tried Warframe and I got to that screen that showed all of the mod cards and I said, this game's too smart for me, and then I never played it again. And I
That's
think
exactly
that's
what I did
happened.
last time. Yeah,
Yeah,
I saw the
I
amount
think
of
that has
options.
happened. That's happened to so many players. I am sure of it. And there are segments in the game that because it's science fantasy. This is one of the crazy things about the game. Because it's science fantasy, things aren't easily explainable because things have ridiculous names.
Mm. Like the
Like
name of this gameplay edition. What's that called?
Railjack.
Railed. Okay, that's not that bad.
Of all the things that are in the game, that isn't that bad.
Yeah.
Like all the guns have ridiculous. I mean, it's all completely by design, and I wouldn't want it any other way. But when you're doing the relics, there's like these orbs that you equip to a mission, and then it's one of those things where you play it for so long it doesn't become weird, but then when you try to explain it to someone else, you're like, I genuinely don't know how to explain this to you, but I understand it perfectly.
I know what you mean. In a similar vein, my mum tried to tell me about the Comic Con, the Marvel Comic Con news today, and she was like, "I think there's a new Thor film coming out. Is it called Mjolnir?" I was like, "No, mum, that's Mjolnir. It's the name of the hammer." And she's like, "Oh, right." I was like, "To me, that like Mjolnir, you know,
Yeah, Mjolnir.
Mjolnir's the name of the
Yeah,
hammer." But to anyone else, it's like, "Well, I don't fucking know."
it's like um, it's very similar to Persona as well. I understand the way that universe works perfectly. I could not describe it to someone else.
Hmm.
It is impossible, and that's something that Warframe like. It's a blessing and a curse. The universe is so different and so unique for the better. Yet when you try and play it, you're like, what the fuck does this mean? Like, what is a mod? What do mods do? Like, they don't feel like physical things that you have. Like, why did they slot in? What is this? Like, it's that's the main problem with the game. It's all of the best parts of Warframe are the worst parts. It's very odd.
Hmm.
So see, this is a problem, isn't it, with Warframe? It's such an open, interesting game to talk about that you can't really talk about what for one. You can't really talk about one thing
Yeah, without
without
going
talking
into
about
another one. Well,
yeah, without talking about everything else.
what's this
But
new
I
gameplay edition then?
promise, I'm going to go down the list now. So the new mode is Railjack, and this is something that was shown that was teased last year, and they've been working on it for so long because the gameplay implications of this would be big for any developer, and Warframe Digital Extremes aren't the biggest developer out there. So essentially, Railjock, Railjock, Railjack is a co-op dogfighting mode. Um, I don't know if you played the original Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Did a little bit.
You did a little bit. The space battles in that were significantly 100 times better than the ones in the most recent Star Wars Battlefronts because you could get in a ship inside your ship, fly it through space, dogfight, and then land it in an enemy ship and then fight FPS or third person combat in that ship. And they could do that in 2004.
Well, they're doing that in the latest Lego Star Wars Lego game, so here's hoping for that.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope Star Wars Battlefront 3 lets you do that. But yeah,
You say
in
that like there's going
this,
to be a Star Wars Battlefront 3. Disney aren't going to let them do that.
Oh, that's true. They've probably just slaughtered that developer. Disney,
Yeah.
they just walked in.
Goodbye.
Um,
What?
Goodbye. Okay, goodbye. um, but yeah, so this is like you have a ship that is called a railjack. It is similar to, I mean, the ship looks very weird because it's Warframe, but just imagine you have like a Star Destroyer and you're able to kind of pilot that around. The Star Destroyer has particular abilities. You can get different ones that have different shields, armor. It's all just playing to your personal play style, and you can pilot that from the cockpit and just fight other ships in that sense. But what you can also do is leave leave the cockpit and run around your own ship doing things. There will be certain things that you have to fix, very a la Guns of Icarus,
Hmm.
or maybe even Sea of Thieves. You can also, but the cool thing is then leaving it to sort of autopilot itself, jumping out into the void of space, equipping your Archwing, and then being able to fly around and go into enemy ships or fight mobs that are attacking your ship from the outside. Now that's cool in and of itself, but what you can also do is infiltrate enemy ships which are AI controlled, and they'll have enemies on them, and you can take control of those as well. And what they showed in this gameplay demo is there is a boss. It's a new right now in the game. There's a enemy called the Shadow Stalker, and every time you kill a boss, he will send you a message in the in-game inbox saying your actions have consequences, and he will hunt you down at random on a certain mission. And he's very, very difficult to kill. But if you kill him, you'll get a certain weapon of his. Now, depending on what your actions in the game are, depending on your allegiances, the choices you make in story missions, just kind of what player you are, like your allegiance to certain factions and stuff. The game will create a personalized nemesis for you, similar to like Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War, and he will now be your stalker. He will go through. He's going to follow you through the world of Warframe,
Hmm.
and they
Oh,
show him
cool.
appear. They show him appearing on in one of these railjack missions. They are under attack on their ship, and they fend off the enemies. They're flying around on the outside in their arc wings, fighting the enemy off. And then they infiltrate the enemy ship, and he appears in the cockpit of the enemy ship as sort of a surprise boss. And this was so fucking cool. Um, Essentially, he's in the cockpit, and there's this huge Tesla coil, which is the reactor of the ship, and that's what powers the boss's shields. So the boss is extremely tanky and hard to kill, even with a squad of three, fully like leveled up warframes that they had. That boss would be really hard to kill. However, what happened is one of the team members left the boss fight, jumped into their Archwing, did aerial combat outside while the other two were still fighting the boss, destroyed the reactor on the outside of the ship, and then flew back into the ship. And now he couldn't charge his shields with the reactor, and they were able to kill him more easily.
Oh shit. That sounds cool as fuck.
Yeah, so it's a really cool really cool co-op missions. Another thing they showed, which isn't quite as like in with your inbuilt with your co-op team, but gives more sense to the asynchronous multiplayer aspect of Warframe, is you can be doing one of these railjack missions and you can come up to a ship that is very heavily shielded or very heavily um, has loads of like weapons on it, um, and it can be very difficult to attack. They haven't made it so that you can never not destroy one of these ships, but it will be very difficult. But now there's a system called Squad Link. Now, if you have a specific item that you can craft prior to a mission, or you can just get it in a random drop, you can send out a distress call. And then a random squad who will be walking around the plains of Eidolon or Orb Valis, which are the open world sections of the game, can get a distress beacon that will appear on the map somewhere. And then they will be given a mission that they have to complete in a certain amount of time. And this will all be going on at the same time you're fighting in space. And if they complete the mission successfully, it launches a huge beam like right into the heart of space to the ship that you're fighting at, and it'll take like 70% of its health off.
Oh shit, that sounds cool. Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, that kind of sounds like I think like other games that have had asynchronous multiplayer like that. Like I think Watch Dogs 2 had some sort of like online missions where other people could sort of randomly join and like help you out by doing something asynchronous. But
Yeah,
this like sounds like on a much grander scale.
yeah. But your squad will have like this is like it's going into the clan stuff as well and like squad names. So one of the funny things about when they were demoing this is that there was this huge like um space dogfight going on with like the really dramatic, awesome Warframe music, and everyone was in their arc wings dashing about, like crazy shit was happening. And then the screen just went to black, and it cut to a rhino sat on the edge of one of the lakes and played of Eidolon just fishing, and like
Right.
there was like some
Sorry,
banjo music playing.
Rhino is in the Warframe Rhino, not just a rhino.
Not just a rhino, Rhino the Warframe. I should have picked
Okay.
another Warframe. Yeah, the Warframes have different names. This one's called Rhino, and he was just fishing, and there's like banjo music in the background, like it was ultra chill. And then like in front of him, just this huge like distress beacon lands, and the guy on stage was like, "Right, it's up to Squad Team Fish." So then like they like cut it down the middle, so it showed what the Squad Team Fish were doing on the right and what the Railjack team were doing on the left, showing
Mm.
how each of them were like responding to the call. So as soon as they agree to help them out, on their screen it said Squad Team Fish has Squad Team Fish is like on the case or whatever the fuck it says. Like Squad Team Fish is ready to assist you in this mission,
Mm.
and then it shows like not only does it just do a set amount of damage, it shows you how well they're doing like on their mission. Like it shows you like a percentage bar of how well they're getting on. So even though you're in like a co-op, because of the technical limitations of Warframe, they can't have like 8 players doing one mission at once. You're still technically doing a mission with 6 people or 8 people. Sorry, it's like there's something about it that is just really cool to me. Like I'm never gonna meet these people, but the fact that they've helped me in a mission is so awesome.
Yeah. I mean, you do get a great sense of community. I mean, playing Warframe. I mean, I've only played it for about 10 hours, but when you go to like the main sort of social hub areas, you can see quite often. Actually, I've seen people who are new to the game asking questions in the chat, and then the community just helping them out. Um,
Yeah, like when I started playing, or even recently, I've been like, I need what's the best place to get this item, or how do I do this, or like I'm having trouble figuring this out, or I'm
yeah, just
having
like
trouble,
basic questions. Yeah.
yeah, like I'm having trouble getting this to drop, and sometimes someone will tell you, usually they'll be like, oh, if you want this, go like straight away, it'll be go to this mission on this planet and do that, and you should get it fairly quickly. And then other times you'll just get someone who's like mastery rank 30, who's played the game for 2,000 hours, who'll go, hey, and you like slide in your DMs and just give you the item you want.
I've not quite had that yet.
Warframe, right? There's Warframe, there's Fashion Frame, and I'm convinced there's a community that is just Pimp Frame, where they just have ridiculous amounts of credits and items and platinum, and they just go around looking for new players or players who want shit, and they just give it to them. It's it,
Charity frame.
yeah, charity frame. You wouldn't get that in any other MMO. Like World of Warcraft, if someone sees a new player, they're getting ganked.
Yeah.
They're getting ganked. It's like, right, take your lumps. Take, like we're gonna fuck you up. I mean, that's a problem in a lot of games. Is like noob stomping, but you would never get that in Warframe. Warframe has such like a good, consistent community that they want they want. It's like what we were mentioning earlier, isn't it? How like they want new people to play the game, and they don't want them to be scared off by the game. Like Warframe fans are desperate for you to like the game. Like they're desperate for like anyone who says this game isn't for me, I'm not going to enjoy it. I don't think it's for me. They're like, you just haven't got it yet. Just stick with it a bit more, and I can definitely agree with that. It's all
Yeah.
about finding that minute that, like, because I mean, no one's going to deny that Warframe isn't fun from minute one. Like, the gameplay is fun as fuck. It's so, like, just the movement, the gunplay,
It's a bit
even
easy.
outside of it's easy, but it gets a lot harder.
Mm.
Um, just how you kind of move around, like that hasn't got old for me, and even players who've been playing like 10 times the time I have, it hasn't got old for them either. So I don't think it's ever going to get old. It's fun in that respect, and then once you get to the more meta aspect of it, like God, once you get to the story quests, you think you're just playing this kind of weird like science fiction game with a weird universe. Then you play the quests and you go, well, my entire life just changed.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
like my entire understanding of this game I've never played a game where I've played it for 50 hours and then done a quest and my entire understanding of the universe and what I've been doing is contextualized to the point where I'm like, holy shit. Like a real holy shit moment. And I think that's what I encourage everyone who plays Warframe to do. Just finish the second dream and the war within and what's it called? The sacrifice. If you can finish those three quests, that's all you need to do. In fact, after that, you can quit the game. Doesn't matter. You can quit the game after that. I just need people to experience these quests because so far I'm the only person I know in my friendship group or extended friendship group that has, and I'm so fucking desperate for someone else to play them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've. I mean, I've only played for 10 hours, so I don't think I have much more to say on the subject apart from that, except that I hope that I find the time to get that far. When does that expansion release?
Later this year.
Is it just late? It doesn't have a release date.
Yeah, it's just later this year. I think it would be around. The last one was like late August.
Okay, that worries me a little bit because Destiny goes free to play in September, and I've promised myself I might give that another chance. But
I'm gonna give Destiny another go because I mean I'm at the point in Warframe where I'm having fun, but I've finished all the quests. Like
mm,
I could stop playing Warframe now and I'd be fine with it. Like I'm not in the addicted stage anymore because I don't feel like there's really much else for me to do other than like improving standings with the like it's still super fun. There's still so much I can do. Like I still want to unlock more frames to play with and make my mastery rank go up because the game's just fun.
yeah,
But
that's true.
I could leave it now and play
Okay,
something else.
that gives me hope that there is, because my worry for me is that I will play this ridiculous and then like get addicted and they won't be able to stop. But the fact that it has like a cut off point where you're like, this is you can do all this content and then walk away and feel
Yeah,
satisfied. That
I
that
I,
encourages me.
I think it's really good that to be fair, I with that point I made, there's three main quests that are absolutely incredible, but then some of the other quests are like really good as well. They're not as good, but they're really good as well. And they
Mm,
let you like get new, just they like give you new warframes essentially. Just like here's some new warframes.
right.
Like working through the quests is probably the best thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I think that yeah, that's what I'm on at the minute. I don't have anything else to add on Warframe. Do you want to move on
Yeah, I think
to
yeah I've said everything I need to say about Warframe.
yeah? So we've also been playing Apex Legends. That's like the other game that we've both been playing because the new season came out. It's got like new hero Watson. They've completely overhauled the battle pass, so everything's now challenge based instead of sort of just uh, like time invested. Um, I'm enjoying it. I mean, they've made enough changes to make it like pretty like different enough to refresh it. They've completely changed the balancing, so now instead of what was OP last time? Um,
Wraith.
yeah, instead of well, I meant
Well,
weapons
it,
because the
oh,
alternator's now on top. It's the top dog in it.
I forgot what the wingman. The wingman was the top
Oh
weapon.
yeah, that was it. So yeah, I mean, there's not really that much to talk about. It's the same formula, apart from it's now some of the like the maps changed a bit and
Yeah,
the
there've been some
weapon, the
nice
meta's changed.
yeah, there've been some really nice meta and quality of life changes that um fortunately they've taken the greater approach they've taken the approach to balance which is the greater good rather than what like some ultra pro streamer saying this gun's perfectly balanced. It's like they're saying that the wingman was perfectly balanced because if you didn't hit shots with it then it didn't do damage, and we were like, well, no shit.
Well, yeah,
Like no, like
that's a shit
no
excuse.
shit. Yeah, but if you can literally hip fire with it and it doesn't matter. It's like it was that kind of thing. It was like we don't want our skill to be brought down, but they have thankfully done a lot of nerfs and buffs that just make the game cleaner. Like they're not. It's still a competitive game, but it's more of a casual competitive game, which is very welcome because the more competitive you make a game, true, the more technically fair it gets, but the more frustrating it can get, and the more I'm more likely to say it's not for me,
Yeah, I
like
mean,
straight
I
away.
I also I love the new ranked mode.
Yeah,
I
it's
like it
really
because
well
it's
done.
different. Yeah, it's so different to everything else that like because
It's different
you have to spend ranked points to actually get into games, and depending on what rank you are, depends on how expensive it is to like get into games. Which
because
I don't know.
it's making the good players rank up really fast, and then like it's making the ranked players rank up really fast, and the people who are really dedicated to Apex, if you just play for enough time, you're gonna be in those higher ranks.
Hmm.
So like if you're more casual like us, you can play ranked every now and then, like maybe like one or two like games every couple of days, and you can get games that feel pretty fair. Well, like they do feel fair, to be fair.
Hmm.
Um,
To be fair,
and
to be fair.
to be sure, uh, they like they feel pretty good. But there's also still like when you go back to casual, just the normal Apex, it feels really good now. It feels like you're playing. It feels like to
It seems
compare it to another BR. It feels like you're playing just a normal match of Fortnite.
yeah, it feels like it's that it's rooted out the sort of the sweats from the people that are just
Yeah,
playing for fun.
yeah. It feels like I mean when we played Fortnite a lot, I think the reason I enjoyed it so much is because it felt like every single game was winnable.
Yeah.
And when you got killed by a sweat, they were so identifiable as one. Like it was so easy to spot someone who was just like ridiculously sweaty at the game. And now I think that was the same in Apex as well. Like if you saw at the start of the game the level 100 Wraith with like 20,000 kills, and then you met her in game and she's only using the wingman and just pressing AD and hip firing at you, like
Mm.
that's when I was like, all F4. That's
Yeah.
when I had enough. But fortunately, they've all kind of gone now. Well, not completely, but it's not
Much
as much
less
of a blood.
frequent.
Yeah, it's not as much of a blood boiler. I mean,
Mm.
it was a blood boiler the other day when we played it because I'm apparently the size of fucking Paris.
I don't know why you left the other day. Oh, all I heard from your end was the mic was, "Why am I getting shot while I'm looting?" And then you died on Alt F4. So I'm not quite
No,
sure what went on there.
I never explained it, but it was basically I was gonna play like I just wanted to have like a good match, and you
What the fuck is going on in my house?
I know I heard that as well.
Jesus fucking Christ!
I
Sorry,
heard that. I
continue.
mean, basically what happened was it it was reaching the peak meme hour. It was about 11 p.m. and I wasn't having it. Right, we landed containment, which is one of the new areas. You landed with me, even though I said to tail off. You nicked all the loot in my house. I ran to a different place to get loot, got no gun. I said I was going to loot somewhere relatively close to containment, and then as I reached it, a whole other squad walked around the corner, all with guns, and immediately started shooting at me. I ran away, hid, was trying to get a med kit off, and the Wraith chased me across the fucking map just to get the kill, and then I alt F4 and left the Discord. And I went to bed. It was so fucking annoying. So that's
To
why I left the other day.
to defend myself, all the loot I stole from you wasn't weapon based, so that wasn't my fault. But whatever. Um,
I mean, true. But I mean, Apex Legends is. I think it. We loved it when it came out. We then noticed the teething problems. Then there was the sweat. Then there was the connection issues that meant we stopped playing it as a group. And I feel like a lot of those things have either been fixed or at least improved. And now it's just a good game to say, do you want to play some Apex? You play it, and it's a fun, just multiplayer meme.
yeah, I mean another issue
It's
was
good.
that we didn't play season one because season one was boring as tits. But
Yeah, that's also true.
and season two is genuinely like all the challenges genuinely like make you they force you to play the game differently in ways that you wouldn't otherwise, which is the mark of. That's why I loved Fortnite, because it made me play in a different way.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
I think
Apex is the same thing.
I remember when we played PUBG, everyone had the place they landed.
Yeah, and it
Like,
got very
let's
samey very
land
quickly.
here. Let's land here because we know here is good. I think the one thing that I still want them to fix, I want them to fix the meta, the meta a little bit. Not in terms of weapons or heroes, because I think they're kind of fine at the moment. The problem I have is how people play the game, especially in like ranked, and I've heard it only gets worse the more you climb up. It's a very, very passive game, and you'll just get a lot of circle camping. Not just circle camping, people sitting on the edge of the circle, just always on the edge. No one will ever go any nearer than that. They get relatively good loot, and then they just play by the edge of the circle until the very end, just to get a good like score. Because it's all about placement. Kills get you barely any like what's it called? RP?
RP. Well, it gets you
Yeah,
one up to a maximum of five.
yeah, but a win gets you 12,
Yeah, I guess.
and then I think placing in the top three gives you 7. So you could
Yeah,
either be
it
part of
goes
the last
top
9
10.
players.
Top ten's five. Top five is seven, and then or is it no? Is it three? Does it give you? I think it
I
might be
think
three
three's
if you.
top 10.
Yeah, top 10 is three. Then top. I can't remember now. Whatever.
I think top 5 is 5, and top 3 is 7,
Yeah, yeah.
and then
That
top
yeah, that sounds right.
and then the winner's 12. So
Yeah.
it's all about placement. So you get very, very passive play, and if you ever take a fight in ranked Apex, just be prepared to die after you win, because you will.
Yeah.
You will. Like, that's what it's about. You take a fight in Apex, and while doing that fight, you forget, like, that fight is now unimportant. What's important is the fucking meerkats, the 54 other meerkats on the map who've just heard gunfire, and in an almost Wile E. Coyote style look of shock, they're like, "Bring shit! Oh my god! Free kills, lads!" And they all just run at you. It's insane. The
Yeah.
third party in Apex is the ultimate meme about it. It's like playing Horde mode,
We get annoyed at it when it happens to us, but we do it
but
all the
then we
time as
do
well.
it. Yeah. Should we referee?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's how we won that one game the other night. We were sat in this hut watching two people fight on a cliff, waited for one team to get eliminated, and they just mopped up the rest of them.
It's the equivalent of like it's the equivalent of Germany and like it's
Careful
the
where you
equivalent
go
of
with this.
no UK and Germany fighting in the Second World War, and then like 20 of the Madagascar army show up and then just win.
Jesus Christ! I don't know if I'd go that
That's all
far
I
with the
could.
analogy.
That's all I could think of. But you can win so easy. Like the third party, it's not even like a fight, is it? It's just
Not really.
wait,
It's
hey,
just yeah,
well done for winning your fair battle. We'll just take all your loot now. Thank you, bye.
exactly. Um, all right, yeah, I think that's enough on Apex. You had Overwatch on the list, but I'm not like. Do you want to talk about Overwatch? Because I don't
You
think
know
there's
what?
much.
Let's save an extended Overwatch talk for when Roll Q is out and when Sigma is out.
Yeah, that sounds like that's enough news to properly warrant
Sigma
an Overwatch
Sigma
discussion.
was Sigma was announced about 2 hours before we started recording this podcast, and I thought, should we talk about it? But we don't even know exactly what his abilities are yet.
Yeah, and
And
I mean
there has
they.
been very important Overwatch news otherwise, and I think a good Overwatch revisited segment could be quite good for the podcast. So we're going to save that until the start of August when all these changes start being made, and then we'll do an Overwatch section because that's when a lot of people are going to restart playing the game as well.
Yeah, us
You
included, I think.
you too, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, the only other game I've been playing is I traded. I did something that I never usually do, and I haven't done for years, and I traded some video games in at a
It's
physical shop.
it's
Um,
2007.
yeah, well, it felt like it. Fucking hell. So I discovered that Nintendo Switch games, although you pay the Nintendo tax on them, they actually hold their value ridiculously well.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I had Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Lego Marvel Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 on Switch. And I sold Pokemon EV because I'd done enough of it where I was satisfied, and I bought Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 on Steam because it doesn't actually run very well on Switch, so I wanted it on PC. I got £26.50 for Let's Go Eevee. That came
Well,
out.
I thought you were going to say for both, and I
No,
was
no, no,
thought
no.
that's and I thought that's pretty good.
Nah, fucking hell. £26.50 for Let's Go Eevee, and I got I think it was like whatever it makes it up to 39 quid for Lego Marvel. So I got the equivalent of about 40 quid for just those two games, and so I paid a fiver for Mario Maker 2, which I was quite impressed with. Um, so I haven't touched the. Okay, so most people, I think, for Mario Maker 2 are either buying it to make their own levels or play everyone else's. I actually bought this for the story mode, because the story mode's really interesting because it feels like it's Nintendo's excuse to put in a load of levels that they would have loved, that they've like created and would have loved to put in a normal Mario game, but they're just too out there. Like they're too either experimental or they're too different from like the linear style of a 2D Mario game. And Mario Maker 2 is just an excuse to include all the wacky shit that they've not been able to like sort of make public before, and I love it. Like I've put about 5 or 6 hours into it now, and I'm about 50% of the way through like what you would call the main story. The main story is that you have to like rebuild Peach's castle or something, and you complete levels to earn coins, and then you spend for coins on castle upgrades. It's fairly simple, and it's like yeah, it's pretty harmless. But some of them chat like they have. There's 4 difficulty levels, and they're graded like either 4-star difficulty or 1-star difficulty, and you get a different like amount of coin rewards for however difficult it is. Some of them are ridiculously, well, not ridiculously because they are achievable, but they're masochistic to an extent. My mum says that I'm not allowed to play this for extended sessions because she's heard me shout rude words at the telly, and there's been some times where Joy Cons have nearly been thrown out the window because it's some of them are so frustrating. But they're a lot of fun, and I haven't actually touched the level creator yet because I don't consider myself to be that creative. Although, from what I've heard, apparently it's so intuitive that you'll start with a basic idea, and then you just sort of see opportunities appear, because the level editor's like that in depth. Um, I've played a couple of like hand of other people's levels, but not a great deal. I played one that was like, it showed you like there was like a path that you could walk on, and then it had like a blocked off area that showed what the scenario ahead was going to be. And then there was 2 items that you had to pick up, and you had to choose the right item for what the scenario was showing. So it's like a puzzle sort of thing. You had to sort of work out how you would navigate the puzzle going forward and decide which item you need to get through it properly, which was pretty cool. Except for that, there's a comment system, kind of like Dark Souls,
Hmm.
and people were just commenting the answer. But there was 2 sets of like comments. There was all the people ruining it, and then there was another comment next to it, who was the level creator going, "Please stop it, guys! Please stop it!" And just some guy getting like really, really like, it's like for all I know, it could be some 7-year-old kid who's just like put all this effort into this level, and then it's
Stop
getting
spoiling my
spoiled.
level, man.
Yeah.
Stop it,
It,
man.
you can you can turn off the comments if you're really that bothered. I just thought it was really funny. And of course, I'm sure you've seen like on Twitter, there's some ridiculously sadistic levels of that are just require pure Mario sweat to complete. I've not bothered with any of those because I'm losing my hair anyway. I don't need to lose any more of it.
Molding.
Um, yeah, I'm definitely molding. But yeah, it's a good pick if you like 2D Mario. Don't necessarily worry if you're not that creative. There's also like a fourth mode, which is like a level tutorial, and it teaches you some like basic game design techniques, which is pretty cool. Um, in terms of like, if you someone who's looking to get into game design, maybe pick this up as like a starting, like a place to sort of test the waters of like whether you'd be into game design, especially 2D
Yeah.
game design.
It teaches you stuff that you just don't think about. Like, level design is something that is such an abstract concept that you can see why a lot of games don't get it right.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, I've made a level. Why isn't the level fun?
Mm.
Because
It's really difficult to gauge that.
because the level looks great. Like, it might look great, and your character might play great, but why does the level not feel great?
Yeah, if you're
And
just like
it's like,
pressing A to jump like through some basic, platforming, like that's
yeah,
not quite as it's very niche. Not niche. What's the word
well,
I'm looking for?
it's I think niche is
Nuanced.
probably
That's
the
the word.
nuanced. Yeah, it's a very nuanced skill
Yeah.
because I mean gaming is still relatively new and level design has still is it's still improving. Like
Mm,
I mean, if the first games sort of came out in the early '80s, um, you go back and play them now, and there's just ridiculously bad level design in them. But
mm,
now, but even going towards like games that came out in 2005 and six, they have ridiculously bad level design in. And then see even some modern games do that. Maybe in 10 years' time, we'll look back on some current games that we think have great level design and think, it wasn't actually that great.
yeah, maybe we'll look back at Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 map design and say, actually, do you know what? That was trash. Oh no, wait, we're doing that now. Sorry. Yeah, if you don't listen to these podcasts a lot, you'll slowly get used to my intermittent slagging off of Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 4. Um, yeah, speaking of 80s and 90s, the actual I forgot, well, not forgot because I never actually played the originals, but I didn't realize how gorgeous the art style of, is it Super Mario 3 and Super
Yeah,
Mario, what's the other one that's in it? I have the box here.
there's
Um,
Mario 1, Mario 2, Mario 3, Super
no,
Mario
okay,
World.
the Super Mario Bros, Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, Super Mario Bros. U, and Super Mario 3D World. So I didn't realize how pretty Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World could look actually, because I played a couple of the obviously like there's the different art styles and some of the like yeah, so some of the levels especially in the ones that are made by Nintendo look good, like they hold up really well in terms of the art style.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're also like they've revised. Like
The
they still
assets are
look like
revised.
themselves, but yeah, but they're still revised. They won't look that good in
Yeah.
their normal versions, but they still hold up really nicely. Yeah.
The only thing that I'm finding difficult, well, not difficult, just a little bit jarring, is sometimes when you go between each of the art styles, the mechanics, like the movement mechanics,
Yes,
are ever so slightly different, and it's a little
there's
bit
something.
awkward to
There's
switch
something that
between them.
that's definitely something that would bother me. There's not that many differences between uh the original ones, but once you get to the sort of 3D, 2D, which is like
Especially, I think
then
Super Mario World is the one that's throwing me at the minute because the
g-
items look very different and they do different
yes.
things.
Also,
Yeah,
Mario has a lot more movement options.
yeah, yeah, and especially getting into the 3D Land, which was the 3DS one. Like you have like if you just sprint forward, you like boosts, and you can do
Yeah,
like you can only do the like weird triple jump thing in Super Mario Bros. U, but not in any of the other ones. So it's a little bit jarring to sort of get used to that, flicking between the different art styles. But it's just genuinely good fun. So especially playing the Super Mario 3D Land one surprised me because those levels seem to be a little bit more simplistic than the other ones. Like if you look at the difficulty levels, it's usually always the older art styles. It's never usually the
yeah.
3D Land or Bros U. Um, but yeah, that playing that really makes me long for Super Mario Bros 3D Land um, on Switch because I think that'd be. I've not played it, but I've heard great things, and we were having a discussion, the eternal discussion the other day about porting Mario Galaxy to the Switch, which we still really want. But yeah,
Free money,
um,
Nintendo, by the way.
it is free. I genuinely, if they announced it tomorrow,
Literal
I would
free money.
I would put down £50 in a heartbeat for those two games on Switch because they are lit. They were my childhood. And I think that's it. That's all I've
Yep.
got time for. So
We
we're now going to
don't.
pass you on. Go
I
on.
will point out that we did have a hot topic for this week.
Yeah, but we're at
Um,
2 hours, and we've also got
no,
the other. We need to throw to the 2 week old
yeah, yeah.
content.
Like, not only do we have fucking 2 hours already, but it's such a. It's. I don't think we'll spoil what it is, but it's so big that
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll talk about it on the next one.
it's gonna need extended time.
Speaking of the next podcast, in 2 days' time, I am going down to the hot, sweaty, melting pit that is London to go and play Doom Eternal. I'll writing up a summary for the National Student, but I will of course talk about what I think of Doom Eternal. It's the first time I'll have played it because it's it's not out yet. Also, next week I should have played Wolfenstein. Shit, what's it called? What's the new one called? Youngblood.
Youngblood.
Because I'm also reviewing that for the National
Well,
Student.
hopefully we both will have been able to play it.
Yeah, well, so if you buy Wolfenstein Youngblood, you should get. There's like a co-op system where you only need to buy one to send a code, or I don't know how it works. And I'm hoping that my review copy will be able to do
I
the same
think
thing, so that Owen can
it
play as
allows
well.
me it allows me to download the game, but it's a version of the game that won't launch unless you've invited me to it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
A Way
it's
Out
it's the
did a
full
similar thing,
game.
and
Yeah,
I don't know how it worked then, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, at least one of us will have played Wolfenstein Youngblood next week. So make sure to tune in for that. Of course, as I mentioned, these podcasts are now. What the hell? These podcasts are now going out on a
podcast.
Thursday. These
I think
podcasts are going out on a
I think you
Thursday
should.
now.
I think you should have stuck the landing there. You know, I don't think you should
Well, I
have
just
called that
kept it
out.
going.
I think you should have kept it going. I felt like that was some like character development shit.
I'm gonna have to. Well, when I come back,
Podcasts.
I'm gonna have spent 5 days in London next week, so I'm gonna be talking like that permanently after next Tuesday.
No, you're
Um,
gonna come back and you're gonna talk like every single NPC from Assassin's Creed Unity,
oh,
despite it
Christ.
being in France. It's
Yeah.
like, welcome to Paris. Welcome. You're alright, lads. Alright, let's go fuck it. Fuck it up, man.
I feel like I should go full Yorkshire just to counteract it a little bit. These
I agree.
podcasts will be going out on a Thursday from now
Oh,
on.
aye. Oh, aye.
Aye.
Back in my day, we didn't have podcasts, you see. We just fucking, if we wanted to listen to something, we just had to
We're just
hold
stood on a
our...
tall hill.
Yeah, we just held our ears up to a comic book and just pretended we could hear it.
Yeah.
Those were the
So, yeah.
days.
Next Thursday, listen out for that one. Doom and Wolfenstein are your incentives. We're going to throw you to 2 week old, not 2 week old, but 2 weeks ago. Josh and Owen, who's going to slag off Zelda for a bit. So yeah, keep
We're not
listening for
gonna
that.
we're not gonna slag off Zelda, but we're gonna do it with slightly reduced mic quality and slightly more venom.
Yeah, yeah. It was a tricky time. Anyway, enjoy. Goodbye.
Enjoy.
Teamfight tactics. Let's go.
So we played this last night.
Yes,
I've been playing it a lot, but you had your first foray into it last night.
Right, just to preface this, I fucking hate League of Legends and I can't stand it. Everything from I don't like MOBAs. I think they're shit, just from a gameplay standpoint. It's the same as like MOBAs to me are what shitty action scenes are in films. You know when you see when you watch Quantum of Solace and you've got a fucking clue what's going on. That's
What, like 5 billion cuts?
5 billion cuts. That's what MOBAs are like for me. I play it and I'm like, well, I've pressed a button and a million sparkles have flown off screen, but I can't see anything that's going on. And yeah, I fucking hate them. And I don't particularly have any sort of appeal for the character design or any of that sort of world building or anything. So yeah, Aaron, our friend Aaron, who's massive into League of Legends, and you convinced me that Teamfight Tactics is a completely different game to League of Legends, and I might actually enjoy it because it's kind of intuitive. And I think I'll meet you halfway in that I did enjoy myself last night. I don't think it's as approachable as I thought it was going to be, but I feel like it's far more approachable than League of Legends, and I could actually see myself playing a bit more of it.
I think we both know what sold you on Teamfight Tactics.
Oh, well, as soon as I saw the dabbing penguin, I literally, it's practically game of the year. Fuck everything else I've played this year. I mean, you show me a small little yellow penguin that dabs and makes a cute little noise at the same time.
Quack.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
It was it is true that little things can just kind of sell you on a game.
I was cry laughing for 2 minutes.
You were.
I missed a turn. I didn't know what I was doing.
So Teamfight Tactics is sort of it's a weird one because it's a genre that has just appeared.
Mm.
Like
I've never heard of Auto Chess before the
Yeah.
PC gaming show.
It had no build-up. Like, MOBAs have existed since Warcraft 3. Because Dota, the original Dota mod for Warcraft 3, then created, developers made actual MOBAs. But, I mean, that was what, like 20-something years ago, maybe? And then the first kind of real big MOBA, I would probably say was League, or maybe Hon, Heroes of New Earth.
Yeah.
So that's had a very long, that's had a very long cycle to get to where they need to be, to kind of be the cultural, stomping ground. I mean, shooters were the same. Like, shooters took a long time to kind of kick off. Like, all of these, everything has to sort of build up. Whereas Auto Chess was a mod for Dota 2 that had nothing before it. It was just sort of a mod. Someone just thought, hey, I'll make this kind of cool, fun little game mode. I'll see what happens. And now it's already creating multi-million-dollar franchises. Auto Chess has its own game now on iOS and Android. Valve are so into the genre that they've released a game. Valve made Dota Underlords. They made a new game. So I mean, if Valve's going to make a new game, they can see the money in it.
Well, that's what they see, isn't it? They've got blinkers on unless it's made of gold.
And then Riot Games, who everyone makes fun of because they've only made one game, have now made 2 games. So they've got Teamfight Tactics as well. And it's already making them millions as well. I mean, as you saw last night, the server doesn't work. It's literally melting.
It took us 20 minutes to find a game last night. Well, our first one anyway. After that, it was pretty smooth sailing. But...
Do you know how long my queue was the second day it was released?
Go on.
68 hours.
Jesus Christ.
And that wasn't a bug. That was genuinely how many people were trying to access the server at once.
Oh my God.
People are addicted to this. They love it. And I love it as well. It's a super, once you just kind of click with it, and I mean, you could say this for literally any game, but I don't think you're that far off having the kind of click moment. Once you get it, it's not a game where you're like, oh, I'm it's an interesting genre because it's so RNG reliant, but also so strategy reliant that you can just kind of go into it with friends and you just sort of chill with it. It's like half chill, half competitive game. And it's just really, really enjoyable. Like, it's pretty much what me and other people in our friendship group and outside of other people's friendship groups have been doing over the past week is just playing this. Just getting into 8-man lobbies and playing this and just talking.
I feel like that's what people really want League. Well, that's what some people like. There's something to be said for a multiplayer game where, you have to think about it a little bit, but a great multiplayer game is, for some people, is one that you can just sort of jump in, have use it as like a social hub. I mean, I think that's kind of like what Fortnite is at the minute. It's a social hub for people to just jump in and have a conversation more so than play the game, and just have that as a sort of a background thing. And I feel
exactly, yeah. And the interactions that you can do with the little legends, the fact that they've brought over the characterization from League is something that I really like, because Dota the war between Dota 2 and League will last until this universe implodes. But I think no Dota fan could ever possibly say that Dota has better characterization than League does. Maybe you have to play it for a while, but once you kind of find a champion that you like, even though they've only got 10, 20 voice lines, they're you really, really get attached to those characters, and it's just a generally nicer looking world with nicer looking characters in it than Dota is.
Yeah.
And I think it suits this sort of auto chess thing perfectly, because everything is so distinct, it's clean, you know what's happening. Like you say, it's a sparkly mess where you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Did you feel like when you were watching these battles unfold, you could understand what you were looking at?
Oh yeah, completely. It was completely, mainly because it's not me controlling shit that's going on. If I was in charge of those characters' actions, I wouldn't have a frigging clue. But the fact that it's all automatic, it's fine.
You see Garen, he spins his sword around. It's the fact that everyone does basically the same. They're either melee or ranged, and they only do one thing.
Yeah.
Garen spins his sword around. Ari throws a ball, Varys shoots an arrow, Warwick jumps to somebody else.
Yeah.
It's like once you know all the stuff, and it's the community's been very, very helpful as well by like releasing all of these cheat sheets.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know what all the items do, you know how the synergies work, everything like that. It's just a really cool genre, and the best thing about it is they've only got, I think, I don't know how many champions are actually in Teamfight Tactics. Probably like 30 to 40, but there's 130 something league champions.
Yeah.
So there's so much scope for them to add more and more and more as time goes on, and
Yeah.
like balance it out.
I'm glad that they've kept it small to begin with, because for me that is another reason why I fucking hate League of Legends, is that because it's been out for so long, and that there's a like Overwatch is fine because when it first came out there was like 20 champions, and that was easy to get, like, because it's all well and good learning how one champion works, but if you don't know how your opponent works either, then what's the point?
Exactly.
And in Overwatch that's fine because there's 20 and they're all fairly unique, and there's not very many of them. But when you come to League of Legends and there's 140 different characters who all have at least 3 or 4 abilities and different movement mechanics to get used to, that's just, for someone who's never played the game before, I look at that and I'm like, no, like I'll just go and play Uncharted. Like, I know how that works.
It's also fair enough in the case of Overwatch, where you can boil most characters down to, they've
got
either
pistols,
shoot,
they have a sniper,
yeah,
they've got a Gatling gun, whatever.
exactly, and there's not like
There's not a lot of overlap, is there?
I think that's why my most hated character in Overwatch, Genji, I hate him because of his deflect. Because his deflect is just like one of the things that is unintuitive. Like, I just want to shoot you, and you're deflecting my shots, and I don't like that. And League is full of that. Like, there's characters where they'll do a move, and Jax has a ability called Counter Strike, where he deflects things that come towards him, and then based on how much damage he took during that, he does more damage to you. Like, when he makes it go off, you're never going to know that as a new player.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
There's a character called Xin Zhao, who's ult. You can only damage him when you're inside a certain circle. So a new player is just going to go, well, why didn't I damage him? There's loads of stuff that I just automatically know, but I'm able to kind of say, yeah, this is bullshit. Like, there's just abilities and items in that game that make you go, well, I lost that fight because I didn't know something very basic about the other person's character, and that's just not fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I couldn't get into League of Legends, but Teamfight Tactics, because it's such a smaller roster and everything's sort of much more dumbed down. As you said, it was much more accessible. The only thing I didn't find too accessible was probably my own fault, because I didn't research the game at all before jumping in. I just heard the praises sung by everyone, and I was like, well,
it might take a little bit of research.
Yeah, and I was like, I have no idea how the synergies work. I still don't have any idea how the synergies work. And to be fair, until the last game we played last night, I didn't know how to build properly into like knights and ranged and all that sort of stuff. But now I've sort of got that down. I feel like I can probably be a little bit more competent.
It's probably a good idea to just find. One of the good things about it is people have been suggesting, like, oh, just try this build. That doesn't work. If you go into a game of Teamfight Tactics knowing the build you want to do, you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Because other people are gonna try and do that. You might not get the RNG that works. It's all about playing. It's very much like poker, really, or like a card game where it's very RNG reliant. Like the people who play it casually, or maybe are just kind of new to it, go, this game's pure RNG. It's all about manipulating the RNG in your favor. But to the point where, because it's RNG, you don't get that annoyed when you lose, but when you win, it feels great.
Yeah.
So it's all about that.
I'm excited to play more. I think I might play some more tonight if you guys are. I'll be definitely up for that as soon as I've left the flat and gotten rid of some of this heat, because fucking melting. So yeah, I mean, you've been playing it quite a lot for the last few days, and I think quite a lot of people will still be playing it over the next few weeks as well.
I mean, it's gonna last a long time. Like that,
Yeah.
when Teamfight Tactics released, and it might even. I'm gonna do a very quick check on Twitch, because Teamfight Tactics has a separate directory on Twitter. Like I've gone onto. Oh, hang on. I've got 13 streamers that I follow right now on Twitch, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are playing Teamfight Tactics. Yeah, League of Legends has 60k viewers right now across all streamers. Do you want to know how many Teamfight Tactics has?
160.
How did you guess?
Because I've typed Twitch.
I know.
I'm looking at it.
I bet you did. 160k. So it's got 100k more views, and it's an extra mode of just the main game.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty huge.
And where's Dota Underlords? Oh, it's not even on there. Oh, it's got 12k. Lol.
I mean, it managed to pull me into it, and I don't even like League of Legends, so it's obviously got, say, huge potential to bring in even more people to an already Masai franchise. So
yeah, but like people are gonna jump in. They're gonna like the League character. Like they might like some of the League characters and how they play, and they go, "Hey, I might jump into like a PvP match."
Yeah, I considered doing that last night, and
do you know what?
Better
Yeah,
of
but do you know
myself.
what's great about that, Josh? What's great about that is people might be new. Like they didn't play Dota, they didn't play any MOBA before that, but they played auto chess, and now they've come into League. Does that mean there's going to be like hundreds of thousands of new League players? That's amazing. That's so good, because that's what League needs. That's what MOBAs need. MOBAs need new blood so that new players can
So you
play
can
against
rank
each
up
other.
your
and
accounts. That's what you want, Owen.
No.
just want new
I don't do
blood.
that.
You want League virgins to come in and pillage.
I don't understand
That's what you want.
smurfing. Smurfing's stupid. People who smurf to pub stomp new players and like noobs are just shit. I hate them so much. But I do think that's crucial in a lot of competitive games. Fighting games need that horribly. They need so many new They need a new queue. Actually, this is a good time to mention that Rainbow Six has that now.
Oh, does
Rainbow
it?
Six, yeah. If you're under level 50, you're put in a new player queue.
I was going to download Rainbow Six again last night when I got back to my
Rainbow
PC.
Six has done some fantastic things for new players. Actually, they really dedicate themselves to kind of saying, we understand there's a lot to learn about this game, like in terms of maps, characters, angles. Just like the reason that I'm intimidated by Siege is for the same reason you're intimidated by League. Like, the actual game itself looks fun, but the amount of just boring shit I need to learn that's probably going to get me killed is just annoying.
That's the same for me. Even though I played it a lot when it first came out, the amount of new shit that they've added that I've just not kept up to date with is like, well, going back in would be such a huge effort that I'm not sure it's worth it. I might give it a go though between now and next time.
I do like how competitive games now have such huge skill gaps that developers are starting to kind of realize that. I really want the next Street Fighter or the next fighting game that really takes off to have a exclusive new player queue, because that's super important. Apex is getting a ranked mode, which is great. The reason I stopped playing Apex is because it was just pure sweat.
Yeah.
The
new season starts tonight, actually. Give that a go.
So we'll be jumping into that. I think the ranked mode's actually in this update.
It is, yeah.
Siege, as I mentioned before, has its pre-50 new player queue, which is fantastic. So people can just sort of hoon around and shoot each other and not do the ultra sweat. Like, I'm just going to sit in this corner with my drone.
Yeah.
Like, and now
Bless you.
This genre has brought hundreds of thousands of new casual players to the biggest genre in gaming, MOBAs, which is exactly what they need. Because you've tried to play League on numerous occasions, and you go into lane and you think, should I hit these minions? Should I hit them? Should I be walking up? Should I not be here? Should I be 2 pixels to the left?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's just what it feels like, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's actually I'm very happy about that. Very happy about that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, right. That's all that you've got on your list. I'll blast through a couple of mine. I finished Watch Dogs 2. I think I mentioned on the last couple that I started it. I finished it now. I don't really have much more to say. I mean, I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. I tell you what I'm going to miss. Like, as much as I'm excited for Watch Dogs Legion, I am really going to miss Watch Dogs 2's tone. Because Watch Dogs 2's... the tone of Watch Dogs 2 was so not on the nose, but it was perfectly self-aware in like the right way. You can do self-aware really really wrong, but this was properly good. Like a lot of the jokes, there was a lot of humor around it, and pretty much like all of the jokes landed. And it was very contradictory. Ubisoft seems to be very afraid of doing anything that comments on like any sort of real life aspect, and yet there were entire side missions around bringing down. In fact, part of the story is about bringing down the presidential campaign online because they tried to like spy on their and like influence the vote using technology. And then there's another one that was like, do you remember that American pharmaceutical guy who raised the prices of drugs astronomically? Yeah. There's an entire mission that is just based around exactly that character who he raises the price of pharmaceuticals and then buys a track off an artist purely so that only he can listen to it. And there's an entire side mission about like fucking him up. And I love that shit because it's so interesting. I also loved how everything in the game is like distinctly separated. So you've got the main missions, you've got the side missions, which are like you don't have to do them if you don't want to, but I did every single one of them. And then you've all the collectible shit is not tied to side missions. Like that's just in the world. You can do it if you want. You get like free upgrades and whatever if you do it, but it's not essential. And then there's all the online stuff which I didn't bother touching. I found that really annoying actually. I turned that off eventually. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. The only thing I didn't particularly like about it, Windows 10, fucking don't wait an hour. There we are. Sorry, it keeps wanting. It's been wanting to update for like the last 2 days, and I keep clicking wait an hour.
Update detected.
It's quite ironic talking about Watch Dogs 2. Yeah, the only thing I didn't really like was that I felt that the ending. I don't know what. I feel like I have an issue. Like, do I just not understand how stories are supposed to end? Maybe because I feel like I'm saying that a lot recently that I don't like the endings of games. But it felt a bit anticlimactic. Like you do this one mission that's not particularly any more difficult or grand in scale than the rest of them, and then you just get a cutscene and it ends. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I completed the mission of the story, but I don't know. It felt a bit anticlimactic. But yeah, very excited to see how Watch Dogs Legion, changes things up a bit because I properly enjoyed Watch Dogs 2.
I'm super like
it's quite short. I think I finished it in about 20 hours, which was shorter than I thought it would be. But anyway, it was a lovely contained experience that I thoroughly enjoyed.
I'm really hoping I enjoy Legion. I think that there are a bit. I think the only thing that concerns me about Legion is I think there's a bit too many video games that are like, right, here's a city or a province, like let's build a resistance and take it back.
Yeah, I mean,
whereas I'm actually okay with that in Watch Dogs 2 because I've come to realize that one of my favorite like story tropes or like kinds of story is when you're part of like a small little group that no one knows exists, and you're like genuinely like influencing things like on a huge scale. I love that.
It's also quite interesting. Well, it's interesting because Watch Dogs 1 was exactly that. It wasn't like DedSec were completely underground, and it was made up of like it was made up of literally like 2 or 3 people. And then Watch Dogs 2 is about taking this team of about 3 or 4 people and building it into a much bigger organization that is like you have a social media. That's the main. You can't unlock the main mission until you reach like 10 million followers or something. It's all about building a presence. And then Watch Dogs 3 is about taking that presence that's established and using it to overthrow like the establishment.
Persona 5's like that as well. Every time there's a loading screen, in the bottom right there's there's like a forum, like someone creates a forum for your group, like an anonymous person, and it'll have like a question of the week, which is like, do you believe in what the Phantom Thieves are doing? Do you believe they're just? And it's like a percentage.
Mm.
So, and like every loading screen, depending on what you've done in the story, it like goes up or down.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
So that sounds like the same as what's in Watch Dogs.
Yeah, so it's pretty arbitrary in Watch Dogs. It's just, have you completed this mission or done this side mission, and your follower count goes up. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the story thread, it's like a natural progression. And although that I am going to probably miss the sort of self-aware tone of Watch Dogs 2, I do hope that that Ubisoft continue to be sort of a little bit audacious with, in terms of, you know, real world influencers. I doubt that they will. But
I think people are telling them that I think they know they're kind of messing up.
I mean, they literally have a pig mask. They have a pig mask with a monocle on. And I mean, if you know anything about British politics, there was the whole thing about David Cameron a few years ago.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, everyone hates, you know, called fucking Tory pigs or whatever. So
it's hurting them more than it's going to benefit them.
Yeah, exactly. So as long as they, you know, I'm sure it'll be fine. But finishing Watch Dogs 2 made me very, very excited for Watch Dogs 3. That's all I had to say on that one. I also played Hell Let Loose this week. Again, writing for the National Student. I've written up a preview, which I think is going live on the 10th of July. I got an email through today saying that it was scheduled for publication then. I rated this fairly highly, but again, as you said, you know, you rated Tomb Raider 2013 highly. I rate it highly in terms of objectively, but subjectively, I didn't like this game a great deal. So it's kind of like, the best comparison I can make is that it's like Squad, which is another early access sort of team-based, almost mill sim, but not quite. It's like kind of like an arcadey mill sim game, but with a World War II coat of paint on it. This is published by Team 17. I didn't particularly like. I mean, people who enjoy this game will probably love it. That's what I said. I was like, if you're into this type of game, you should probably keep an eye on it. But
these are the types of games that like release and then they get like 500 consistent players and then it never goes up or down.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
Exactly. There is absolutely an audience for this out there. I think I mentioned that in my preview, but it's just, I'm not part of it. The weapons feel fine to shoot. The main issue I had is that, like, everything is about teamwork in that game, but because it's like, there is a fairly great like voice like chat system implemented. I feel like this would really, really benefit from a ping system like in Apex, but because they want to go for that realism thing and the UI is scarce, you basically just got a compass. Then I don't really see how a ping system could work in a context like this. The weapons feel fine to shoot. The main issue I have is that, like, it doesn't run very well on PC for a start, which doesn't help. It looks fairly pretty, but there's a lot of visual clutter that makes, similar to like PUBG, it's very difficult to, there's no hit markers, so it's very difficult to tell if you've actually damaged or downed an enemy. And there's no hit indicators, so you can't tell where you're getting shot from. And
that's one of those things that I feel like is by design.
Yeah, absolutely by design. It's just, I didn't,
which is
like
fair,
it personally.
Which is definitely fair in a game like Hell Let Loose or Postscriptum or Squad. I think that's perfectly fair. I don't think it's fair in PUBG because that's kind of pointless. I still don't know why PUBG doesn't have hit markers.
Yes. Well, I mean, it sort of does. The amount of blood that comes out of those people is pretty obvious. But
yeah, I suppose. But it's nice to have the brat.
Yeah, it is. I feel like we're definitely much more of like part of the arcade shooter market rather than this mill sim style. I mean, if you enjoy, as I've said, if you enjoy this game, if you enjoy this genre, you'll probably like it. I wasn't a particular fan. If you want to read my piece, it'll be on the National Student Gaming page on 10th of July, I think, about 5 p.m. So go give that a read. Save that for my shameless plug at the end. I don't really have anything else to say really. I don't really I don't want to read through my review before it's published. So okay, I've got one more thing before we get to the big title. Witcher 3 started a new save. Owen, you complained at me because I'd sent Owen like a list of my backlog titles, and he was like, "Do you really need to play The Witcher 3 again?" And I was like, "Yes, because this is my treat to myself." Okay, so Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. Absolutely adore it. And in summer of 2017, I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this game on the shelf for 2 years minimum, and purely for the sake of I want to forget, well, not forget, but like I want to defamiliarize myself with this game so much to the point where when I pick it up again, it will be like experiencing it for the first time. And I feel like 2 years has been about enough of a period of time for me to do that. So I picked this up again, started a new save, and I'm playing it on the hardest difficulty, which I feel like is how it's meant to be played. And I am thoroughly enjoying it. It took me about 6 or 7 hours to get through. I'm playing it properly slowly. And yeah, it took me about 6 or 7 hours to get just out of the tutorial area. And I'm doing one thing that I don't tend to find myself doing in RPGs is properly exhausting dialogue options. Like if I do the main ones that advance the quest, but then if there's like backlog or like flavor text or anything, I just tend to ignore it because I'm not that bothered. But I'm actually going
I'll
into
go
it.
in with good intentions to do them all, and then someone just tells me about what they had for lunch, and I'm like, no thanks.
Well, there is some of that stuff, but a lot of that stuff in The Witcher is quite comedic, or if it's not comedic, it genuinely like gives you some sort of insight into the political landscape of what's going on in the world. So yeah, I'm really not that far into it. I haven't even done like the first like main mission in the main world yet, but yeah, I don't have a lot to say because I'm not very far into it, but that's going to be what I'm playing over the next sort of couple months, I reckon, before uni. It's also interesting because I started playing this at the same time as Breath of the Wild, and I was a little bit worried because I was like, 2 open world RPGs at the same time. Could that be a little bit, could I get burnt out on one and then also burnt out on the other? Luckily, I don't think that's happened because although that they have similar ideas, they do things quite differently. So yeah, it's quite interesting. I'm genuinely looking forward to our discussion about Breath of the Wild because I told you via DMs, Owen, that while I appreciate a lot of The Legend of Zelda, I don't think it's perfect by any means, and I'm very interested to see if your criticisms align with mine. Something else
Let's get the notebook out.
Yeah, I feel like a bit of a dweeb doing this, but I bought a moleskin notebook a few months ago, and I've just sort of like not used it. I bought it with the intention of like organizing my life. But what I've started doing is do you remember in middle school when we used to have to write book reports about books that we'd written? Well, I've started doing that with video games, and although it felt a bit dweeby to begin with, I've actually found it really, really useful in terms of like getting my thoughts on a game out on paper, and like there's something to be said for writing things physically instead of typing shit. So I've got a lovely little red moleskin notebook that's got some notes about Breath of the Wild in it, and I'm actually quite pleased with how it's turned out. I'm not going to read it out word for word because that would be cringe as fuck. So yeah, well, when I finished Breath of the Wild, on the one hand, I was like, there was a lot of that game that was right. Okay, it innovated on stereotypes, and it had this style that was just, it's so impressive and beautiful. But then there were also some aspects that were like, they're fine, but when you compare them to the rest of the game, they're just like a little bit lackluster, and that kind of was what brought it down for me. And I think the main thing that got to me by the end was tedium. I don't know if you felt the same. Have you finished it, by the way? I should ask.
I am at Ganon's castle.
Okay, I'll talk a bit about that because
I don't mind any spoilers.
There's not really much that I can spoil, to be honest, because okay, right, I'll put a spoiler warning out. If you don't want to know how Breath of the Wild ends, don't go any further, or turn it off or whatever. This is why I've saved it for last. So Do you remember before? You know how some RPGs are different. Like when you finish the story of an RPG, some of them spit you back out into the world, and you can finish off side quests and stuff. And other ones finish the story, and if you want to go back and do other stuff, you have to load a previous save. Which one do you prefer? Like, which
Say that
method?
again. Just so I can understand it.
So for example, when you finish Fallout 3, once you finish that final mission, the credits roll, and then if you want to go back and do side quests and stuff, you have to load a previous save before you start the final mission. Whereas some RPGs like Skyrim, you finish the main story ends, but then you can just continue to roam the world and do side quests and stuff after the game's finished. Which sort of method do you prefer?
I don't think there's either that I prefer, really. Like, I think they're two very different things. It completely depends on what that final mission is doing to the world that you're in.
Mm.
You know, like if in the case of like Dark Souls or something, you're literally sacrificing yourself, or you die, or you go somewhere else, then it wouldn't make much sense. Like in Far Cry 3, you literally get sacrificed by what's she called?
Oh, I can't
Boob
remember her name
Lady.
now. Boob Lady, that's the one.
Let's
That's
call
a
her
little bit
Cleopatra. Let's call her Cleopatra.
Okay, yeah.
If you choose to sacrifice your friends for her, she kills you.
Yeah.
So you become the sort of spirit of the island.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the end of the credits, you
It
just
just-
come back.
Yeah, it just sort of spits you out, yeah.
It just sort of spits you out, just kind of right, like you can sort of carry on.
Yeah.
And it's jarring, but I mean, I'd rather that than it be like, yeah, if you want to get like 100% completion, you have to then do the entire game again and pick a different ending.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with it. If it was like, right, this character then goes away, and here's the option to Hollow Knight saves before the final boss.
Okay.
And it
I mean,
says
so
before
does
the final
Zelda.
boss. It says, Hollow Knight actually tells you. It says your game will be saved here, and then when you click continue, you'll be brought back to this point.
Right, okay.
So you can go back if you want to get the other endings.
Yeah, no.
So I don't think there's either that I prefer. I think it's just sort of, it's all contextual, really.
Well, Zelda Breath of the Wild is one of the ones where once you defeat Ganon, that's it. If you want to go back and do other things, you have to load before you defeated Ganon. It doesn't tell you that, but that's what it is. Yes, you defeat Ganon, you get a cutscene. I think you only get a cutscene if you find all of the memories, which I did, which was interesting. Yeah, I think thinking back on it, because I was thinking like, right, yeah, I'll go back I'll finish the main story, maybe I'll go play something else for a bit, and then at some point I'll probably come back and finish all the shrines, maybe find a few more of the Koroks. But I don't really think I will do that if it means I have to go back to before Ganon was. It doesn't even make much difference. But and thinking back on it, now, if I went back to the world after Ganon was defeated, obviously all of the divine beasts wouldn't be around, or all of the the guardians wouldn't be around, and the threat of the world would be severely reduced. And that's probably something that they're going to delve into in the sequel. So that makes a lot of sense. I was just a little bit frustrated by it because I do prefer a story that's written so that once you've finished the main thing, you can just sort of go on, and even if it doesn't make complete sense, like you can go on.
I think it also makes sense in a Zelda like world. Like Link is very much the everyman hero. Like he roams around just kind of helping people out. Like, I mean,
Okay,
not everyone's problems. All right, so this is something you're gonna want to talk about, is it?
This is something I want to talk about because I feel like Link is a very not contrived, but he's a very conflicting character in the sense that he's built up by all of the other characters in the world as being, the wielder of the sword that what's it called? It links the darkness or something.
Seals the
darkness. Yeah, some fantasy bollocks like that. And he's built up to be this like incredible character. But then if you look at Link's character in all of the memories, and he's just a soldier who follows the orders of the king. Like he doesn't seem to care about Zelda at all. He's only like there's a scene where Zelda asks him to stop following her, but the king's asked him to protect her. So he follows her and protects her. But Zelda's like, no, fuck off. I don't want you. And he just doesn't seem to care about Zelda like at all. And I don't know if part of that is like down to because Link is not a voiced character and we never actually hear any of it. He's just like a, maybe he's a blank slate for the player to project themselves on. But I don't think that works. Like that's not what sort of RPG this is. So that jarred me a bit. I think what did I write? I wrote about this a little bit in here. All right, I'll just read this out from my bit. So this seems to the part where the quest, the world, and the character designs are at odds with each other. Hyrule makes you feel so small and insignificant, and that's partly why it's so joyous to explore. You never truly feel as though you can tame the world to your tune, and that's why the title Breath of the Wild works so well. Love that. Yet Link is built up as this great warrior whom the world is meant to revolve around. And this works for the main quest, but the side quests contrast greatly as they're often menial tasks that have no real impact on the world beyond personal benefit. And that feels dated in terms of game design. In contrast, The Witcher 3 has a very early quest that tasks Geralt with finding herbs to heal an NPC, and your choices in that quest directly affect the fate of NPCs and provide enriched and like perception of the world and lore. That NPC can like come back later and have an impact, and it just feels like everything's interconnected, like a living, breathing world. And in Breath of the Wild, I just got the feeling that those side quests were like an afterthought.
And even the personal gain you get from those side quests are pretty insignificant as well. Like,
yeah, it's just like
really
a few rupees. It's like that's why I just didn't feel any sort of motivation to continue playing after the Divine Beasts. I also had an issue with the Divine Beasts. While the puzzles, in terms of like the shrines and in the Divine Beasts are incredible, they're very like some of them are genuinely difficult. The Divine Beasts got very repetitive by the fourth one. I mean, the quest structure was exactly the same. You go to this village, you speak to a village elder.
Get 5 terminals.
Get 5. This is even before you get to the Divine Beast. You go to a village, you speak to a village elder. You find some other side character. You do an errand for them. Then you both go and attack the Divine Beast. You do the puzzle, and then it's done. But you do that 4 times over. I mean, yes, the puzzle's the same and the side quests are the same, but it's just because the structure is exactly the same. It just felt a little bit, I don't know, too gamey for me. I don't know. Maybe I was wanting something different from it. It wasn't.
No, I agree with that.
What was the other thing I was going to complain? Yeah, even down to the script, like the script of the lines that the heroes that fell 100 years ago when they defeated the Divine Beasts.
Right? This is something I definitely wanted to mention. I want a CinemaSins done on this game, and I want a counter for every single time a fucker says 100 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It really shoves it down your throat, doesn't it? Even my mum, because
this happened 100 years ago.
Yeah, like I was playing this on the telly at home, and my mum kept walking in, and she I mean, maybe it's to because this is it's not really a kids game. It's a 12. But my mum was like, my mum could obviously get the story because she was like, well, they've mentioned that it's 100 years ago about 5 times in one sentence. Like it's not difficult to differentiate, but it did feel very on the nose.
There might be a problem with the translation as well.
I did also say that there was, I don't know, never mind. What else did I criticize? I criticized a lot of this. I said it was like pretty,
Speaking of the translation,
cookie cutter. Go on.
Speaking of the translation, I guess I have got a unique thing to add in that I played 75% of this game in Japanese and I regretted it.
Oh, well, yeah.
I usually with a game that I'm going to stop doing this, because usually when a game's made in Japan, I'll play it in Japanese because I feel like that's just the most prudent thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did with Sekiro. And I thought that I would do it with this as well, but then every time I've done that and I've gone back to the English dub, it just feels like each character has so much more personality, and I don't know if that's just because I don't speak the language.
I think that's probably what it is. It's just lost in translation. That is the purpose of localization teams, is to make sure that the message is translated accordingly into different
Yeah, but
languages.
I feel like I would never do that with anime, because in anime, when it's brought to an English dub, it's like y- the writing isn't then rewritten to accommodate the English dub.
Mm.
It's like English people, English voice actors reading out lines that don't really land very well in English, or just sound super melodramatic or super like um cringeworthy, like cartoon style cringeworthy line delivery. So in anime, I leave it in Japanese, because as melodramatic as it gets, Japanese is a very melodramatic language,
Yeah.
so it just sounds cool. So um but then in video games it seems to be the opposite. Like Sekiro sounds great in English. It genuinely sounds fantastic in English. Sekiro's voice actor is great. He's so he's so muted. He's got emotion in his voice, but he's just like a very somber, softly spoken character, which you wouldn't expect from like a main character in a game like that.
Yeah.
He's very just sort of relaxed. He doesn't make like loud sweeping Link style like shit. He's like, he doesn't make, and that's something I only realized about Sekiro, that the main character doesn't make any noise when he's fighting,
Yeah.
which is actually really cool. I never noticed that. He's just super like controlled and
Like
focused the whole
Winter
time.
Soldier style, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But yeah, like I just can't. I'm just gonna stop playing these games in Japanese unless the English dub really makes me triggered.
I wonder if something else that just doesn't translate well from Japanese, because the other final sort of, well, I had a couple more complaints. I'm sick of the I don't know if maybe it just didn't translate well from Japanese, but the Save the Princess story is just a tired trope.
I think that there's actually um I think this game actually, in the sort of subtext of it, if you look at it, I think there is. I don't think it's quite Save the Princess. Like, I think it's Save the Princess on purpose to kind of say something else. Like, do you know what I mean?
I get.
I feel like this. I feel like this happened in Super Mario Odyssey as well. Like, I mean, Super Mario Odyssey. It's hardly like on the same level story wise, but it was very much the same thing, of how like you want, like, Mario goes out to save Peach, and then you get that final cutscene, which is hilarious.
Which cutscene's that? One where
It's a scene where you defeat Bowser, and both Mario and Bowser are trying to propose to Peach. So Bowser can't marry Peach, and then Peach just goes, "Well, neither of you," and then just walks away.
Yeah, there is there is definitely some sort of subtext there, but it only sort of pays off at the end when you get, like, you finally defeat Ganon, and I nearly said Peach there. Zelda has like this power that she also uses to help defeat Ganon. So, you know, I mean,
I'm looking forward to it being explored.
This is
in
what
the sequel.
That's what I said. I said the thing about Zelda is that she is a far more interesting character than Link. By the end of the game, I fucking hated Link. I couldn't. He was the most boring arse character.
But Josh, the name of the game is The Legend of Zelda.
I know, but why are we not playing? I don't know. It frustrated me. This is why I'm saying I can't wait for the sequel, because I
feel like it's too much of a tradition to play. It's too much of a tradition to play as Link. But I genuinely think that Miyamoto, whoever the lead on the Zelda franchise is, desperately want to make a Zelda game where you play as Zelda.
Well, so do I, because I feel that's what I mean. Part of this game, that's what frustrates me. Like, this game, yes, I can see why it was hailed as this like industry changing, like cultural touchstone, modern classic game. But there's so much of this that is just, it feels frustratingly outdated compared to the rest of it. And the story and the character design of Link and some of the mission structures are part of that. So while it's not a bad game by any means, there are certainly parts of it that are frustratingly mediocre, and that's kind of what I summarized as. I mean, to
I
talk.
think
Go on.
that's just the full Nintendo as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Honestly, looking at this game for kind of how different it is compared to how different it is to something like Skyward Sword and the structure of the Zelda games before it, and how it has elements like climbing towers but makes them genuinely interesting in comparison to
Like Assassin's
games,
Creed and Far Cry.
yeah,
and...
like games other than that, and how just beautiful the world is.
I mean, yeah.
compared to,
If you, I mean,
like graphically, like
for a thing you can fit in your pocket.
yeah, this game just sort of proves that you don't need you really just need a good art director. You don't need like a super hyper realistic, like you just need good art direction.
Yeah.
And the thing that I absolutely love about this game the most, which is the reason I didn't like Witcher 3, is just how connected you feel to the world itself.
I mean,
which is just what makes it so much fun to play. You feel like you're in just such a nice, chunky sandbox.
I mean, I can get that in terms if you just look at the world itself, but if you try and tie that into a story, I feel like it falls flat. Whereas The Witcher 3 is the opposite in the sense that the world is so intrinsically tied to the story, but maybe not quite as interesting as a world on its own, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I guess the difference is that Zelda games are, or the kind of games that I like are based on a series of moments rather than an overarching narrative. That's why I like the Souls games. That's why I like Sekiro. There's no like cutscene story dialogue structure. It's just a series of moments and set pieces and things that come to mean something. Like things that give you just kind of emotional shots rather than like overarching narrative. And I think Breath of the Wild does that very well. It had a lot of moments from just exploring the world where you kind of get story style stuff through environmental storytelling, and then just shit that kind of wows you.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Goes, what's that?
There was a lot
what is that?
There was a lot of times where I was climbing up like a thing, and I'd look to the right and see like the sun setting over like some ruins or something, and I'd be like, "Fuck me, this is exactly what the cover art looks like," and it's genuinely like impressive in that sense. I mean,
like I just love being like, I want to go over there.
Yeah, and you can because that's how Zelda works. I mean, we can talk about the fucking traversal system till the cows come home. And I mean, I think my review in this book, I think it's 2 pages of me slagging it off and then about a paragraph of listing off everything that's genuinely incredible. Like
that's what happens. That's what happens with this. It's like every game, like, but I could do multiple podcasts on how much shit there is in Bloodborne. And then I could do a final paragraph that just said, yeah, probably my favorite action game ever made, 9.5 out of 10.
Absolutely. I've said here, like, the stamina wheel and climbing and gliding movement system is the perfect combination to make world traversal refreshing. The puzzles, especially in the Divine Beast, were incredibly challenging, and all of the abilities felt unique to the game. I adore the art style and soundtrack. Combat is brilliant with surprisingly complex mechanics. For example, I don't know if you've seen that Twitter video, but I didn't know you could.
I did, yeah.
I didn't know you could deflect laser blasts until about 5 hours before the end credits. And I got a really cool.
You can parry
moment.
them as well.
But yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like I managed to accidentally get a perfect reflection. So there's this clip on that I put on Twitter where I used the Master Sword for the first time, just twatted this one Guardian, like one-shotted him, turned around, went for another one, accidentally got like a perfect deflect of a laser blast, and got another one that was like about to shoot me off in the distance, and I just felt like I was like Captain Hyrule. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
It was genuinely
that would be great.
Incredible.
That'd actually be great in a future game, in the next one, if you could like chuck the shield up and come back.
Fuck yeah, that's what I'm most excited about playing God of War for that, to be honest.
I mean, there's so much, like, I only really saw it from the Donkey videos that he's done on Breath of the Wild, but there is a lot there's a lot that the enemies can do, and a lot that a lot that Link can do. Just weird world stuff that
Well,
they didn't need to put in.
it's a physics-based environment that is essentially just a sandbox, and it's completely open for experimentation and like expression, which I think is genuinely fantastic.
It's what the AI does. Like, have you ever there's this clip where the huge, like the huge moblins,
Yeah.
like the giant ones. He like freezes one of them in place and then takes his club, and then throws it off a cliff.
Mm.
And then when he comes back from being like frozen in time, he looks at his hand and it's gone, and he's confused. So he goes to like pick another weapon up, and then Donkey does it again.
Yeah.
But then but then his AI realizes there's no other weapons for him to pick up, so he just picks up one of the smaller moblins and uses him as a sword.
Yeah, it's shit
Just
like
shit
that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to a dog and run in circles, it runs in circles. Also, did you know if you feed a dog a piece of meat in the the horse stables?
Yeah.
There'll usually be a dog.
Mm-hmm.
If you feed it a piece of meat, it'll start to walk in a random direction, and if you follow it, it leads you to a hidden green chest.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
I didn't know that happened either. Someone just put it on Twitter the other day, and all the replies were like, "What?" I didn't know this happened.
That's what I mean. Like, there's so much like shit in here that I didn't even know like was a thing, and I feel like that is to its benefit. Like, the other couple of things I want to touch on are I can see the frustration with degrading weapons, but
I like them.
Once you resign yourself to be a bit more liberal with your items and you sort of don't attach yourself to them, you come across new weapons every time you kill an enemy with a weapon, you get a new weapon. Like
when you fight,
you're never short of a weapon. So,
but the major tests
fine.
of strength.
Yeah.
These were the things that made me realize the weapon degradation system is actually perfectly fine. Because I didn't want to do those because I just thought I was never strong enough to like beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got some really good weapons. I'd go into one of the shrines. I had like 3 guardian weapons. 2 of them broke during the fight, but then the guardian you beat drops 3.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you get the amount of
And
shit
they're
that you
plus.
get is and it encourages you to like sort of experiment a little bit, and it forces you to change up your playstyle, which is something that, like, if you get a bow in Skyrim, you can just keep upgrading it and use that for the entire playthrough, whereas this forces you to sort of be a little bit more frugal, and I really like that.
I also like how
Go
on.
No, I was going to move on to a completely different point.
I also like how the weapons themselves aren't just weapons. You can also use them as tools.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the flame swords and the ice swords you can use to generally impact the environment.
Well, you can use it to keep you warm. There's
and to keep you warm.
Yeah.
There's a bit in the like snowy region where there's like these huge bits of ice that you need to use fire to melt.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything on hand, but I had like a huge flame greatsword. So I thought, will this work? And it did.
Yeah,
Actually, that pretty much sums up Breath of the Wild. Is this gonna work? It feels like it should, and then it does.
Yeah, exactly. It's that's what I mean. It's like the physics-based environment just creates this sandbox that is genuinely enjoyable to dick around in. I have one more complaint, and that's that some of the bosses did not telegraph their attacks particularly well. There was a lot
and by some you mean the Gerudo Desert one, because he's bollocks.
Gerudo Desert. Oh, he is bollocks. Fuck yeah, that was
Thunderblight.
Yeah, I spent about a good 45
He's
minutes.
He's got one move that literally does like 9 hearts worth of damage, and he's just stood there, and then he's like, blah. It's like, what am I supposed to do against that?
As soon as I found that boss fight was fine as long as you didn't get damaged by that attack once. Because as soon as it's just a chain reaction after that. The other one is I don't really want to spoil the final Ganon boss fight, but there's a defensive maneuver that he does that is not obvious at all what you're supposed to do. He puts up a shield essentially, but you've got no idea how you get rid of that shield, and you just whittles down your health till you figure it out, and it's not telegraphed at all.
I imagine it's well, this is what I don't understand is, like, I imagine the final Ganon fight is gonna be using the abilities you gain from the divine beasts to beat each sort of phase of the fight. Like, that's just video games. I know what that's going to be, but there's one that I don't know how they'd be useful. Like, I know that he's going to do an attack where I need to do the like the defensive thing you get from the volcano to dodge it. He's gonna. That defensive move. I'll probably have to use the like the one you get from the desert, the like really high damage one.
Maybe I should talk about this boss fight a bit more and slag it off, because it's none of that. It's just a normal boss fight.
Oh,
well, the first.
I thought it was going to be like, yeah, like you use all of these things you've earned from the divine beast, but if it's not, it's a bit disappointing.
I think the reason it's designed like that is because you can just do the Ganon boss fight right from the off if you want to. You shouldn't, because it'd be fucking difficult. But if you want to, you can just all that doing the divine beast does is it reduces Ganon's health in the final boss fight. If you get all 4 of the divine beasts, it knocks his health down from 100% to 50, and you go from the boss fight from there. So, yeah, it's literally just it's a pretty cool boss fight. Like, he looks cool, and his attacks are, I mean, they're not that different from any of the Guardian attacks, and it is also a 3-stage boss fight. So you think you do 2, and then he disappears, and then there's another one, and you know that big field out in the front of Hyrule.
Yeah.
There's the big field in front of Hyrule Castle. He transforms into a massive thing, and you have to do a whole section with Zelda while you're riding on a horse around that bit, which is pretty cool. But that
sounds very, very cool.
That bit was cool. It was very like Shadow of the Colossus shit. But no, you don't have to do. None of the abilities that you gain from the divine beasts are particularly useful. Maybe the shieldy one is a little bit, but none of the rest.
I feel like, from what's being described, and from what I've played and from what you've played, I think my takeaway from Breath of the Wild is probably going to be that it's an absolutely fantastic game that makes me just so excited for the next one.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Like,
because they've just got so much opportunity to just make that game twice as good.
That's exactly my thoughts as well. Like, I enjoyed Breath of the Wild. I think it's a fantastic 9 out of 10 game. I feel like maybe it was it's not overrated's the wrong word. It's definitely
overrated's the wrong word, but I do think that there's a certain Nintendo fandom that maybe gave it credit that it didn't deserve. I think
also part of that credit was the fact that it was on brand new hardware that it is paired so perfectly with, and that sort of tipped it over the edge a little bit. But this is absolutely not a perfect game. That's not to say that you shouldn't play it, because it is genuinely a masterpiece. I've got that all out on the table now. I think that's everything that I wanted to say about Breath of the Wild. Anyway, yeah, thank you very much for listening. We are available on Spotify and most popular podcast players. Catch you next time.